Hey everyone, I'm Mono Scaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. Story 1. My name is Haley Scott. The old man warned us about the echo people. Now I understand why. I'm writing this in a motel room in Gainesville, Florida. It's been 3 days since I left Ocala National Forest. I haven't slept more than an hour at a time. Every time I close my eyes, I see Morgan's face in the RV doorway, smiling that wrong smile. The police took my statement twice. They found the RV. They found Jess. They haven't found Morgan, and I don't think they will. Not the real Morgan, anyway. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, while I'm still sure it happened the way I remember. That's the thing that scares me most now. Not knowing if my memories are really mine. It started 3 weeks ago. Morgan, Jess, and I had been planning this trip since January. We were all turning 30 that year, and Morgan said we needed to do something memorable, something that wasn't just another weekend in Atlanta drinking wine and complaining about work. She found a used RV on Craigslist, a 1995 Winnebago that smelled like cigarettes and had a broken shower. But it ran fine and cost less than $3,000. Jess thought we were idiots for buying it. She was probably right. The plan was simple. Drive from Atlanta to the Keys over 10 days, stopping at campgrounds along the way. No agenda, no schedule, just the three of us and the open road. Morgan made a playlist. Jess bought enough trail mix to feed a small army. I was in charge of navigation and finding campgrounds. That's how we ended up at Ocala National Forest on a Tuesday in late October. We'd spent the previous 2 nights at a KOA in Jacksonville that had Wi-Fi and hot showers and families with young kids riding bikes around the loops. It was fine, but Morgan said it didn't feel like real camping. She wanted something more remote, more authentic. I found Ocala online. Hundreds of thousands of acres of forest, dozens of campgrounds and recreation areas, most of them pretty basic. The reviews mentioned seeing deer and wild turkeys. A few mentioned the springs, which were supposed to be beautiful. We arrived around 3 in the afternoon. The campground was called 4 Lake, a small loop of RV sites around a dark, still lake. The ranger station was closed, but there was a self-pay station where you dropped your money in an envelope and took a tag for your site. We were the only ones there. The whole loop was empty except for our RV and a rusted pop-up camper that looked like it had been abandoned years ago. "This is perfect," Morgan said, spreading her arms wide. She was wearing cut-off shorts and a tank top, her red hair piled on top of her head. She looked happy. I remember thinking that. She looked really happy. Jess wasn't sold. "It's kind of creepy. Why is no one else here?" "It's Tuesday in October," I said, "off-season. Or maybe people know something we don't." Morgan laughed. "You're such a pessimist. Come on, let's set up camp." We chose a site right on the lake. The water was dark brown, almost black, reflecting the canopy of Spanish moss and cypress trees. I could see why they called it 4 Lake. There were 4 small islands scattered across the surface, each one covered in thick vegetation. The whole place had this heavy, silent quality. Not peaceful, just dense. While Morgan and I worked on getting the RV leveled and the awning out, Jess walked down to the lake. When she came back, she looked unsettled. "There's no beach," she said. "The water just kind of starts, and I found these." She held out her hand. In her palm were 3 small dolls, each one maybe 4 inches tall, made from twigs and grass and tied with red string. "Probably some kids," Morgan said, barely glancing at them. "There's no kids here. We're the only ones here." "Then it was kids who were here before. Come on, Jess, you're letting this place get to you." Jess threw the dolls back toward the lake. I watched them land in the dirt near the water's edge. We spent the rest of the afternoon like normal people on a camping trip. We drank beer. Morgan tried to start a fire and failed 3 times before I took over. Jess made sandwiches. We talked about work, about the guys we were seeing or not seeing, about Morgan's plan to quit her job and move to Portland. Normal things. As the sun started to set, an old man appeared at our campsite. I didn't hear him coming. None of us did. 1 minute we were alone, and the next he was just standing at the edge of our sight watching us. He was probably in his 70s, wearing overalls and a John Deere cap, his face weathered and deeply lined. "Evening," he said. Morgan jumped, spilling her beer. "Jesus, you scared me. Didn't mean to." He stayed where he was, not coming closer. "Y'all just get here?" "This afternoon," I said. "Are you camping here too?" "Live about 2 miles up the road. I come down here sometimes, check on things." He looked at each of us, his eyes sharp despite his age. "Y'all planning on staying long?" "Just 2 nights," Morgan said. "Then we're heading south." He nodded slowly. "That's good. 2 nights is fine, but I wouldn't stay longer than that. And I wouldn't go wandering around after dark." Jess and I exchanged a glance. Morgan laughed, but it sounded forced. "Why? Are there bears?" "No bears in these parts. It's the echo people you need to watch for." "Echo people?" Morgan was still smiling, but I could see she was getting annoyed. We'd met plenty of locals trying to spook tourists with made-up stories. "That's what my grandmother called them. They're not like us, they look like us, sound like us, but they're not. They come out when it's dark, when the forest gets quiet. They'll call to you in voices you know, your mama's voice or your friend's. They'll sound just right too. That's how they get you. You think you're following someone you trust." "What happens if you follow them?" I asked. I wasn't really interested, but something about his tone made me want to hear the rest. "They take you deep into the forest, and when they're done with you, when they've learned everything about you, they send something back. Something that looks like you, talks like you. But it ain't you. Not really. It's one of them, wearing your face." The fire crackled. Morgan was trying not to laugh. "My grandmother," the old man continued. "She lost her sister to the Echo people back in 1947. Girl was 15. Went into the forest one evening and came back an hour later. But their mama knew right away something was wrong. The girl's eyes didn't move right. She blinked at the wrong times. And her smile, my grandmother said it was like she'd forgotten how smiling worked, like she was copying something she'd seen but didn't understand." "What happened to her?" Jess asked quietly. "They had to send her away. She got worse. Started saying things no one had told her, knowing things she shouldn't know. And at night she'd stand at the window just staring out at the trees, like she was waiting for something." "That's a hell of a story," Morgan said. "Thanks for the warning. We'll be sure to stay in the RV after dark." The old man looked at her for a long moment. "I can see you don't believe me, that's all right. Most people don't, not until they see it for themselves. Just remember, if you hear someone calling your name out there in the dark, don't answer, and don't go looking. Ain't nothing in those trees that means you well." He turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows between the trees. None of us had seen a car or heard one approach. He was just gone. "Well, that was fucking creepy," Jess said. Morgan laughed louder this time. "He's probably the local crazy. Every campground has one. The old dude who tries to scare the tourists with stories about ghosts or monsters or whatever." "Echo people," I said. "Right. Echo people. Christ." She took a long drink from her beer. "I mean, it's creative, I'll give him that. Better than the standard 'these woods are haunted' bullshit." But I noticed that when we went to bed that night, Morgan made sure all the windows in the RV were shut tight, and she locked the door. Nothing happened that first night. I woke up once around 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, and I looked out the window toward the lake. The water was perfectly still. The moon was almost full, and I could see the 4 islands clearly, their shapes dark against the lighter water. I thought I saw something move on the nearest island, just a flicker of motion, but when I looked harder, there was nothing. I went back to bed. Jess was snoring softly in the bed above the cab. Morgan had the fold-out couch that converted from the dinette. I had a sleeping bag on the floor. It wasn't comfortable, but I fell asleep again quickly. The next morning was bright and warm. We made coffee and instant oatmeal, and the weirdness of the previous night seemed silly. Morgan wanted to explore one of the springs she'd read about, So we spent the day hiking and swimming at a place called Juniper Springs. The water was crystal clear and cold, nothing like the dark lake at our campsite. We saw other people, families, couples, a group of college kids with paddleboards. It felt normal and safe. We got back to the campsite around 5. Jess wanted to cook actual food for dinner instead of just sandwiches again. So she and Morgan drove the RV to a store about 15 miles away to buy supplies. I stayed behind, planning to just read and enjoy the quiet. That's when I noticed the dolls again. They weren't where Jess had thrown them. They were arranged in a circle around our fire pit, all facing inward. Someone had added more. There were at least a dozen now, all made from the same materials, twigs and grass and red string. In the center of the circle, spelled out in small stones, were 3 words: "Don't go alone." I stood there staring at them for a long time. My first thought was that the old man had come back and done this. But why? To prove his point? To scare us? I should have taken a picture. I wish I had. But instead, I did what Jess had done. I kicked them apart and scattered them into the trees. I told myself it was just someone trying to mess with us. Maybe local teenagers who knew we were city girls, easy to spook. I went back to the RV and locked myself inside. I tried to read, but I kept looking out the windows, watching the shadows lengthen as the sun set. The lake was still. The trees were still. Everything was still. Morgan and Jess got back around 7:30. They'd bought chicken and vegetables for a stir-fry, and Jess had splurged on a bottle of decent whiskey. We cooked dinner on the camp stove outside, and I didn't mention the dolls. I didn't want to sound paranoid. Morgan was already making fun of Jess for being spooked by the old man's story. After dinner, we sat around the fire. Morgan poured generous shots of whiskey into our enamel camping mugs. The fire was good and hot, and the night air was finally starting to cool. For a while, it was perfect. We laughed about stupid things, an argument Morgan had gotten into with her boss, a terrible date Jess had been on, my mother's new obsession with asking when I was going to have kids. Around 10, Jess went into the RV to use the bathroom. Morgan and I stayed by the fire. "I'm glad we did this," Morgan said. "This trip. I needed to get away from everything for a while." "Yeah," I said. "Me too. Do you ever feel like your life is just happening to you? Like you're not really making choices? You're just reacting to things?" It was an unusually heavy question for Morgan, who usually kept things light. "Sometimes," I said. She stared into the fire. "I think I'm going to break up with Derek when we get back." "Really?" "Yeah, he's a good guy, but I don't love him. And I'm 30 now. That seems like a good time to stop settling." "I think that's—" I stopped. We both heard it at the same time. Someone was calling Morgan's name. "Morgan? Morgan, where are you?" The voice was coming from the direction of the lake. It sounded exactly like Jess. Morgan stood up. "Jess? Morgan, I need help. I'm down by the water." "What's she doing down there?" Morgan started walking toward the lake. I grabbed her arm. "Wait, Jess is in the RV." "No, she went to the bathroom like 5 minutes ago." "Exactly, she's in the RV." I raised my voice. "Jess, are you still in there?" From inside the RV, we heard Jess call back. "Yeah. What's wrong?" Morgan and I looked at each other. The voice from the lake called again. "Morgan, please, I'm scared. I can't find my way back." It sounded exactly like Jess. The same tone, the same slight southern accent she'd never quite lost. But Jess was in the RV. "What the fuck?" Morgan whispered. Jess came out, frowning. "Why are you guys yelling? Did you just call Morgan from down by the lake?" I asked. "What? No. I was in the bathroom." The voice called again, fainter this time. "Morgan, please." "That sounds like me," Jess said. She'd gone very pale. None of us moved. We stood there in the firelight listening. The voice called twice more, each time from further away, deeper in the forest. Then it stopped. "The echo people," Morgan said. She wasn't laughing anymore. We went inside the RV. We locked the door and closed all the curtains. None of us wanted to say it, but we were all thinking the same thing. The old man had been right. "It's probably just someone fucking with us," Jess said, but she didn't sound convinced. "Someone who heard us talking earlier, learned our names. How would they copy your voice perfectly?" Morgan asked. "I don't know. A recording? There are apps that can do that now. We've been here a day and a half. When would someone have recorded you?" Jess didn't have an answer. We sat there in silence, listening to every small sound. The RV creaked and settled. Outside, the fire was dying. I could hear wind moving through the trees, except there hadn't been any wind all day. Around midnight, we heard something walking around the RV. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. They circled us once, then twice. We sat frozen, not even breathing. The footsteps stopped at the door. Someone tried the handle. It rattled once, twice, then stopped. We waited for what felt like hours, but the footsteps didn't come back. None of us slept that night. We sat in the RV with the lights on, taking turns watching the windows. At one point, around 3 a.m., I saw someone standing at the edge of the lake. "There's someone out there," I whispered. Morgan and Jess crowded to the window. The figure was maybe 50 yards away, just standing there, facing the water. It was too dark to see details, but it looked like a woman. She stood perfectly still for several minutes, then turned and looked directly at the RV. Even from that distance, I felt like she was looking right at me. Then she walked into the water. She didn't wade or swim. She just walked, moving steadily forward until the dark water closed over her head. "What the fuck?" Jess breathed. "What the fuck was that?" "We need to leave," I said. "Now." "Right now." But Morgan shook her head. "It's the middle of the night. We don't know these roads. And what if?" She trailed off. "What if what?" Jess demanded. "What if that thing is waiting for us to leave the RV?" She was right. We were safer inside with the doors locked. So we stayed. We sat there in the yellow light, listening to sounds we couldn't identify, watching shadows that moved wrong. When the sun finally came up, I felt like I'd aged 10 years overnight. "We're leaving," Jess said. It wasn't a question. "Agreed," I said. But Morgan was looking out the window. "Look at the fire pit." We looked. The dolls were back, dozens of them, arranged in a perfect circle around the dead fire. And in the dirt, written in what looked like ash, was a message. "One stays." "Fuck this," Jess said. She grabbed her bag and started throwing her things into it. "Fuck all of this, we're going." Morgan was still staring at the message. "What do you think it means?" "I don't care what it means, we're leaving." It took us 20 minutes to pack up. None of us wanted to go outside, but we had to unhook the electrical and water, collapse the awning. We moved fast, not talking, constantly looking over our shoulders. I was disconnecting the water hose when I heard Morgan scream. I ran around the RV. Morgan was standing by the driver's side door, pointing at something on the ground. It was a doll, but bigger than the others. This one was almost a foot tall, and it was made to look like a person. A woman with red hair. "That's me," Morgan said. Her voice was shaking. "That's supposed to be me." "It's just a doll," Jess said, but she didn't sound certain. "Look at the hair. That's my hair. That's my actual hair." She was right. The doll's hair wasn't grass or twigs. It was red, human hair, matted with something dark. I kicked the doll away from the RV. "Let's just go, please." We got in. Jess took the driver's seat. She was the best driver of the three of us. Morgan climbed into the passenger seat. I sat at the dinette, looking out the back windows. The RV started fine. Jess put it in gear and we began to move. That's when I saw someone standing at the edge of the campsite. It was the old man. He was just standing there watching us go. He raised one hand in what might have been a wave or a warning. Then we went around the curve and he disappeared from view. We drove for maybe 10 minutes. The road out of the campground was narrow and winding, thick forest pressing in on both sides. None of us spoke. Jess kept her eyes on the road. Morgan was gripping the door handle so hard her knuckles were white. Then Jess slowed down. What the fuck? Up ahead, the road was blocked. Not by a fallen tree or a gate, by water. The entire road was underwater, dark water covering the asphalt as far as we could see. That wasn't there yesterday, and I said. Jess stopped the RV. Maybe there was flooding overnight? There wasn't any rain. Then where did the water come from? We sat there, engine idling, staring at the flooded road. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the trees above. We have to turn around, Morgan said. Find another way out. Jess started to back up, but the RV stalled. She turned the key. Nothing. She tried again. The engine cranked but wouldn't catch. No, she said, no. She kept turning the key, but the RV wouldn't start. Pop the hood, I said. Maybe I can see what's wrong. But when Jess pulled the hood release, nothing happened. We got out, all three of us together, none of us willing to be alone, and looked at the engine. I don't know much about cars, but everything looked fine. No obvious leaks, no disconnected wires. We'll have to walk back, Morgan said. Get help. Walk back where? Jess demanded. To the ranger station. It was closed. To town. That's 15 miles. So what do you want to do? Stay here. They kept arguing. I walked a few steps down the road, looking at the flooded section. The water was maybe 30 feet across. On the other side, the road looked normal. I could see dry asphalt, sunlight on trees. I took another step closer. Haley, don't, Morgan called. But I was just looking. I wasn't going to touch it. Except that's when I saw something in the water. A face, looking up at me from beneath the surface. It was my face. I stumbled backward, nearly falling. The face in the water smiled, not the way I smile, but slower, like it was learning how. We need to go back to the campsite, I said. Right now. Why? Jess asked. Because that water isn't real. None of this is real. We're not getting out this way. I don't know how I knew that, but I did. The water, the stalled RV, even the road itself, it was all wrong. We were being turned around, sent back. One stays. We walked. It took almost an hour to get back to the campsite, and with every step I felt like we were making a huge mistake. But what choice did we have? When we got back, everything was exactly as we'd left it. The dolls, the message in the dirt, even our tire tracks from driving away. What now? Morgan asked. I guess we wait for someone to come, I said. Another camper, a ranger, someone. But deep down, I knew no one was coming. We were alone. And something in these woods wanted one of us to stay. We spent that day in the RV rationing our food and water. Every few hours, one of us would look outside, checking for other people for any sign of help. There was nothing. The forest was completely silent. No birds, no insects, no wind, just silence. Around 4 in the afternoon, Morgan suddenly sat up. I have an idea, she said. What if we give it what it wants? What do you mean? Jess asked. One stays. That's what the message said. What if one of us agrees to stay and then the other two can leave? That's insane, I said. Is it? Maybe that's how this works. Maybe that's the rule. You want one of us to sacrifice ourselves? I'm not saying we actually do it. I'm saying we pretend. We go out there, we tell them, or it or whatever, that someone will stay. And then when the RV starts again, we all get the hell out of here. That's not going to work, Jess said. How do you know? We don't know the rules. We don't know what we're dealing with. Exactly. Which is why we shouldn't make deals with it. But Morgan was already standing up. I'm going to try. Stay here. Morgan, don't. She was out the door before we could stop her. Jess and I watched from the window. Morgan walked to the center of the campsite, to the circle of dolls. I'll stay, she called out. Her voice echoed strangely in the silent forest. Do you hear me? I'll stay. Just let my friends go. Nothing happened. Morgan stood there for a full minute, waiting. Then she turned back to the RV. It was worth a try, she said when she came back inside. But that night, everything changed. We were trying to sleep, or at least pretending to when we heard it, A knock at the door. 3 slow knocks, evenly spaced. We all sat up. Another 3 knocks. "Don't open it," I whispered. But Morgan was already moving toward the door. "What if it's help? What if someone came?" "At midnight?" Jess hissed. "Use your fucking brain, Morgan." Morgan looked through the window next to the door. She went very still. "What is it?" I asked. It's me." "What?" "There's someone out there. She looks exactly like me." Jess and I rushed to the window. Morgan was right. Standing in the darkness outside our RV was a perfect copy of Morgan. Same red hair, same clothes, same face. But something was off. The way she stood was too straight. The way she held her head was too still. The thing wearing Morgan's face smiled and knocked again. "Morgan," it said. Its voice was exactly Morgan's voice. "Please let me in. I'm scared out here." "This isn't happening," Morgan said. She was backing away from the door. "This isn't real." "Morgan, please." The copy's smile widened. "Don't you recognize me? It's me. Let me in and I'll explain everything." "Go away," Morgan screamed. The copy tilted its head like a dog hearing a strange sound. "That's not very nice. We're supposed to be friends." It raised its hand and knocked again, harder this time. The whole RV shook. "Ignore it," Jess said. "Maybe it'll go away." But the copy didn't go away. It knocked and knocked and knocked, a steady rhythm that went on for hours. Each knock was a little harder, a little more insistent. The RV rocked with each impact. Somewhere around 3 a.m., the knocking stopped. We waited, barely breathing. "Morgan?" The voice came from outside, but it sounded different now. Strained, frightened. "Guys, please let me in. Something is out here. Something is chasing me." "Don't listen," I said. "Morgan, please, I'm begging you. It's getting closer. I can hear it. Please." The voice dissolved into sobs. Desperate, terrified sobs. Morgan was crying too, her hand over her mouth. "That's my voice," she whispered. "That's exactly how I sound when I cry." "It's not you," Jess said firmly. "You're right here. Please." The thing outside screamed and the RV shook. "Please let me in. It's right behind me. It's—" The scream cut off abruptly, then silence. We sat in that silence for a long time. None of us moved. None of us spoke. Then, very quietly, we heard footsteps walking away from the RV. When the sun came up, we looked outside. There were muddy footprints all around the RV, dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They circled us over and over like something had been pacing around us all night. In the dirt near the door, written in the same handwriting as before. 2 more nights. 2 more nights until what? Jess asked. Until one of us stays, Morgan said. She was staring at the message. That's what it means. We have 2 more nights to decide which one of us stays, and if we don't decide. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. That day was worse than the night. At least at night, we knew to expect the horror. During the day, we had to sit with the knowledge of what was coming. We tried everything. We tried to hike out. Every path we took led us in circles back to the campsite. We tried flagging down help. No one came. The forest around us remained empty and silent. Around 3 in the afternoon, Jess said she was going to try to fix the RV. I can't just sit here, she said. I need to do something. Morgan and I watched from the doorway as Jess worked on the engine. She checked hoses, jiggled wires, cleaned connectors. After an hour, she tried the ignition. The RV started. Holy shit, Jess breathed. Holy shit, it started. Then let's go, Morgan said. We piled into the RV. Jess put it in gear and we started moving. This time, I was the one watching out the back window. I watched the campsite recede behind us. I watched the trees close in. Then I saw someone standing in the middle of the road. Jess, stop! She hit the brakes. Standing about 30 feet ahead of us was a woman. She was wearing a white dress and her hair hung down over her face. Go around her, Morgan said. There's no room. The road's too narrow. The woman didn't move. She just stood there, blocking our path. Honk the horn, I said. Jess laid on the horn. The sound was loud and harsh in the silent forest. The woman tilted her head. Then she started walking toward us. Reverse, Morgan said. Go back. Jess put the RV in reverse and started backing up. But when I looked out the back window, I saw another figure standing behind us. There's one behind us, too. What do we do? Jess's voice was climbing toward panic. The woman in front kept walking toward us. As she got closer, I could see that her feet weren't quite touching the ground. She was floating, just barely, her white dress dragging on the asphalt. Lock the doors, and I said. We locked the doors. The woman reached the RV and stopped right at the driver's side window. Slowly, she raised her head. She had no face, just smooth skin where her features should have been. Morgan screamed. The woman pressed her palm against the window, and I watched as the glass started to frost over, ice spreading out from where she touched it. Drive through her, I said. Just drive. I can't do it. Jess stomped on the gas. The RV lurched forward. We drove right through the woman, and for a second I thought we'd made it. Then the RV died again. This time it wouldn't restart no matter what Jess did. We were maybe a quarter mile from the campsite. We sat there in the dead RV, and slowly we realized we could hear something. Singing. A woman's voice singing a lullaby I didn't recognize. It was coming from all around us, from the forest itself. We have to walk back, Morgan said. I'm not going out there, Jess said. We don't have a choice. We got out of the RV. The singing continued, soft and sweet and completely wrong. We walked back to the campsite quickly, not looking at the trees, not looking at anything except the path ahead. When we got back, everything was different. The campsite was full of dolls. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, covering every surface. They hung from the trees. They lined the shore of the lake. They surrounded the RV we'd left behind. And in the center of it all, sitting at our picnic table, was the old man. I warned you, eh? He said. I told you to leave after 2 nights. You have to help us, Morgan said. Please, tell us how to leave. He shook his head. Can't help you now. You've been marked. One of you belongs to them now. What do they want? I asked. They want what they've always wanted. A body to wear, a life to live. They've been here a long time, the Echo people. Longer than anyone remembers. They're what's left when something dies wrong, when a soul gets twisted up in the dying. They can't live on their own, so they borrow. They find someone, learn them, copy them. Then they take their place. So one of us has to stay, Jess said. That's what the message meant. One of you will stay, whether you choose or not. By tomorrow night, one of you won't be who you think you are. And the other two? He smiled, and it was a sad smile. Well, you'll probably wish you'd stayed too. He stood up and walked toward the forest. We called after him, begged him to help us, but he just kept walking until the shadows swallowed him up. We went back into the RV. We locked the doors. We waited. That second night was worse than the first. The knocking started as soon as the sun set. But this time it wasn't just at the door. It came from all around us, the walls, the floor, the ceiling. A constant, maddening rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. Between the knocks, we heard voices. They called our names. They begged for help. They screamed in pain. Sometimes they laughed. Cover your ears, I said. We tried. We stuffed our ears with toilet paper, wrapped our heads in blankets. Nothing helped. The sounds got inside us somehow, bypassing our ears entirely. Around midnight, Jess cracked. I can't take this anymore, she said. She was rocking back and forth, her eyes wild. I can't do this. I'll stay. I'll be the one who stays. Just make it stop. You don't mean that, Morgan said. Yes, I do. I can't. She stood up and moved toward the door. Morgan and I grabbed her. We pulled her away from the door, held her as she fought us. Let me go. I have to go out there. They're waiting for me. That's not you talking, I said. Fight it, Jess. Whatever's in your head, fight it. But Jess had gone limp in our arms. When I looked at her face, her eyes were rolled back, showing only whites. Jess? Morgan shook her. Jess, wake up. Jess's eyes rolled forward again, but when she looked at us, I knew immediately that something was wrong. She smiled. It was the same wrong smile I'd seen on the copy of Morgan. Too wide, too slow. Hello, Jess said, except it wasn't Jess's voice anymore. It was layered, multiple voices speaking at once. Thank you for inviting me in. You didn't invite anything in, I said. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. We'd held Jess, restrained her. We'd pulled her away from the door. Had that been enough? Had that counted as an invitation? The thing wearing Jess's face stood up. It moved wrong, joints bending at angles that weren't quite right. One of you stays, it said in that layered voice. We told you, now we choose. It looked at Morgan, its smile widened. You offered yourself. You said you would stay. We accept. No, Morgan backed away. I take it back, I didn't mean it. Too late. The thing reached for Morgan. I moved without thinking. I grabbed one of the camp chairs, a heavy canvas and metal thing, and I swung it at Jess. I hit her in the head. She went down hard. Morgan screamed. What are you doing? That's not Jess anymore, I said. The thing on the floor was already getting up. It moved differently now, jerky and fast like a video played on fast forward. Its head was twisted at an odd angle from where I'd hit it, but it didn't seem to care. That was rude, it said. We chose Morgan, but maybe we'll take you instead. It lunged at me. I dodged and it crashed into the wall of the RV. The whole vehicle shook. We have to get out, I told Morgan. Now, we can't leave Jess. That's not Jess. I grabbed Morgan's hand and pulled her toward the door. Behind us, the thing was getting up again. It was making sounds now, clicking, whispering sounds that hurt to hear. I yanked open the door and we ran. We ran into the darkness, into the forest, not caring where we were going. Behind us, I heard the RV door slam open. I heard footsteps. Too many footsteps, moving too fast. We crashed through underbrush, branches whipping our faces. Morgan was crying, gasping for air. I pulled her along, not letting her stop. I don't know how long we ran. It felt like hours. The forest was completely dark and we couldn't see where we were going. We just ran. Then Morgan stopped. She pulled her hand free from mine. Haley, she said. Stop. I turned back to her. She was standing in a small clearing looking up at the sky. Her face was calm. We can't keep running, she said. We're never going to get away. You know that, right? What are you talking about? I'll stay, she said. I meant what I said before. I'll stay and you can go. Morgan, it's okay. I'm tired, Haley. I'm so tired. And maybe it won't be so bad. To let go. To let something else drive for a while. That's the echo people talking. That's not you. But she was already walking away from me back toward the campsite. Morgan, stop. She didn't stop. She just kept walking, and I realized with a horrible certainty that she was gone. Not physically gone, not yet. But whatever had gotten into Jess had gotten into Morgan too, somewhere during our run through the forest. Maybe it had been there all along, whispering to her since the moment she'd offered to stay. I stood alone in the dark forest. Every direction looked the same. I couldn't see the campsite, couldn't see the lake, couldn't see anything. Then I heard my own voice calling. Haley? Haley? Where are you? I'm lost. Please help me. It was coming from my left. I turned away from it and walked in the opposite direction. Haley, please, it's so dark out here, I can't find my way. I walked faster. Haley! I started running again. I ran until I couldn't hear my own voice anymore. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I collapsed against a tree, gasping. That's when I saw the lights. Headlights coming down a road. A real road. I stumbled toward them, waving my arms. The car, a pickup truck, slowed down. The window rolled down. "You all right, miss?" The driver was a woman, maybe 50, with a concerned expression. "Please," I gasped. "Please help me. My friends, there's something in the forest. Slow down. Where are you camping?" "Four Lake. We were at Four Lake." She frowned. "Four Lake? That campground's been closed for 15 years. There was an accident there back in, must have been 2009. 3 women went missing. They found the RV but never found the women. After that, they shut it down. Too many people said it was haunted." I stared at her. "That's impossible. We were just there. We checked in 2 days ago." "No, honey, you couldn't have. There's a chain across the access road, has been for years." I looked down at my hands. They were scratched and dirty from running through the forest. When I looked up again, the woman was still watching me with that concerned expression. "Let me give you a ride into town," she said. "We can sort this out at the sheriff's office." I got in the truck. As we drove, I kept looking back, but the forest was just forest, dark and dense and silent. The sheriff's office in nearby Ocala was small and smelled like coffee. They took my statement. They said they'd send someone to check the campsite at Four Lake in the morning. They let me call my parents. I tried to tell them about the Echo people, about what happened to Jess and Morgan. The deputy taking my statement wrote it all down with a carefully neutral expression. "You've been through something traumatic," he said when I was done. "We see this sometimes with people who get lost in the woods. The mind plays tricks. Heat exposure, dehydration, stress. It can make you see things." "I didn't imagine it," I said. "I'm not saying you did. I'm just saying that what you remember might not be exactly what happened." They put me up in a motel room for the night. They said a family member could come get me in the morning. I sat on the motel bed and looked at myself in the mirror across the room. I looked the same. Same dark hair, same brown eyes, same scar on my chin from falling off my bike when I was 8. But there was something different. Something in the way I held my head. The way I blinked. I smiled at my reflection, and my reflection smiled back. Except it smiled first. Just a fraction of a second too early. I haven't slept since then. That was 3 days ago. Every time I close my eyes, I see Morgan walking back toward the campsite. I see Jess's face smiling that wrong smile. I hear my own voice calling from the darkness. The sheriff's department went to Four Lake yesterday. They didn't find anything. No RV, no campsite, no dolls. Just an empty clearing and a dark lake. They think I had a breakdown. That I invented the whole thing. That Morgan and Jess never existed. Or that something happened to them somewhere else and I'm just confused. But I have pictures of us on my phone. I have texts from Jess. I have receipts from the gas stations where we stopped. I know it was real. What I don't know is whether I made it out. Sometimes I catch myself doing things wrong, blinking at the wrong times, moving my hands in ways that don't feel natural, smiling when I shouldn't. And sometimes late at night I hear voices calling, not from outside but from inside my head. They sound like Jess and Morgan. They're asking me to come back. They're saying there's still room for one more. The message said one stays. But what if it was me? What if I'm the one who stayed, and the thing that left the forest is just something wearing my face? I don't know anymore. And that's the worst part. I don't know if I'm Haley Scott, or if I'm just something that learned to be her. All I know is that sometimes when I'm not paying attention, I can feel myself wanting to go back. Back to the forest. Back to Four Lake. Back to where I belong. And one day soon, I think I will. One day soon, when no one's watching, I'll get in my car and drive north. I'll find that forest road. I'll walk through the trees until I reach the dark lake with its 4 small islands. And I'll go home, because that's where the Echo people live, and maybe that's where I live too. My name is Haley Scott, at least I think it is. The old man warned us about the Echo people. Now I understand why. Story 2. My name is Olivia Price. We shouldn't have opened it. The air that came out wasn't meant to breathe. I need to write this down while I still remember who I am, while I still remember what happened. The doctors keep asking me questions, but I can't explain it in a way that makes sense. They think it's trauma, some kind of dissociative episode. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've lost my mind. But I know what I saw. I know what came out of that hatch. It started as a stupid corporate retreat. Our company, Data Sync Solutions, rented a cluster of RVs at a campground in Fish Lake National Forest in Utah for a mandatory team-building weekend. Mandatory. That's the word our boss, Gerald, used in the email, as if any of us wanted to spend our weekend pretending to bond with coworkers we barely tolerated during the week. There were 6 of us. Gerald, mid-50s, the kind of guy who wore fleece vests over button-downs and called everyone Chief. Me, 32, marketing coordinator, divorced, no kids. Marcus, 28, IT guy, always had his earbuds in. Jennifer, 40, accounts manager, talked constantly about her kids. David, 35, sales, divorced like me. We'd slept together once at the Christmas party 2 years ago and never spoke about it. And Casey, 24, the new hire, eager to please, fresh out of college. We arrived on a Friday afternoon in late September. The campground was mostly empty. Too late in the season for families, too early for hunters. Our 3 RVs formed a loose triangle in a clearing surrounded by aspen trees. The trunks were white, almost luminescent in the fading light, with dark knots that looked like eyes watching us. "This is gorgeous," Casey said, spinning around with her phone out, taking pictures. "I'm getting no signal, though." "That's the point," Gerald said, clapping his hands together. "Disconnect to reconnect. That's our theme for the weekend." Marcus looked miserable. Jennifer was already complaining about the bathroom situation. David caught my eye and mouthed, "Kill me." I almost smiled. The first night was uneventful. We had a campfire, roasted hot dogs, drank beer from a cooler. Gerald made us go around and share peak moments from our work lives. It was exactly as excruciating as it sounds. By 9, I excused myself and went to my RV. I had one to myself, thank God. Jennifer and Casey were sharing one, the guys had the third. I couldn't sleep. The RV was stuffy and the mattress was thin and I kept hearing sounds outside. Not animal sounds exactly. Just movement. Footsteps maybe. At one point I looked out the window and thought I saw someone standing between the trees, but when I blinked they were gone. Probably just shadows. Saturday morning, Gerald had planned a hike. We followed a trail that wound through the aspen groves. The trees went on forever, thousands of them, and Jennifer mentioned something she'd read about how aspens in this forest were all connected underground, part of one massive organism. The thought made me uncomfortable for reasons I couldn't articulate. We were about 2 miles in when Casey wandered off the trail. "Hey, I think there's something over here," she called. We found her standing in a small clearing staring down at the ground. At first I didn't see what she was looking at. Then Marcus pointed. "Is that a door?" It was. Or rather, it had been. A metal hatch about 3 feet square set into the ground and covered with years of dirt and pine needles and decomposing leaves. You could barely make out the outline. The metal was rusted, reddish-brown with a recessed handle in the center. What the hell? David knelt down, brushing away debris. "Probably an old mine shaft or something," Gerald said, but he sounded uncertain. "In the middle of nowhere?" I asked. "No markers, no fence?" Marcus had his phone out trying to get a signal. "GPS isn't working. Can't tell exactly where we are." "The GPS worked fine when we started," Jennifer said. "I was tracking our route." We all checked our phones. She was right. No signal, no GPS. The little blue dot that usually showed our location was just gone. "Must be the tree cover," Gerald said, but we were in a clearing. David had cleared more of the hatch. There were symbols etched into the metal around the edges. Not letters exactly. More like pictographs or primitive drawings. A circle with lines radiating out. Something that might have been a hand or a tree or something else. "We should leave it alone," I said. I don't know why I said it, just a feeling. "Come on, aren't you curious?" Casey was practically vibrating with excitement. "What if it's like a Cold War bunker or something? That would be so cool." "Or dangerous," I said. "There could be anything down there. Bad air, structural damage." Olivia's right, Jennifer said. We should report it to a ranger or something. But Gerald was already gripping the handle. Let's just take a quick look. If it's anything serious, we'll mark the location and report it. We can't mark the location, Marcus said. The GPS doesn't work here. Then we'll remember the trail, Gerald said, annoyed now. He pulled on the handle. It didn't budge. David joined him. Together they heaved, and with a grinding shriek of metal on metal, the hatch lifted an inch, then another. Then it swung open on hinges that shouldn't have still worked after all those years. The smell hit us immediately. It wasn't rot exactly. It was older than that. Stale and chemical and organic all at once, like air that had been sealed away from the world for decades, like breathing in a tomb. We all stepped back, covering our noses. Jesus, Marcus said. Below the hatch was darkness. Complete darkness. David pulled out his phone and shined the flashlight down. We could see a ladder, metal rungs descending into a concrete shaft, maybe 20 feet down. Then it opened into what looked like a room or tunnel. Definitely military, David said. Cold War era, probably. Could be a communication station or weapons depot. We're closing it, I said. My heart was pounding. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to walk away, but Casey was already climbing down the ladder. Casey, stop, Jennifer shouted, but the girl was already 10 feet down, then 15. Her phone light bouncing off the concrete walls. It's fine, her voice echoed up. There's a room down here. Oh wow, there's stuff everywhere. Stuff? Gerald called down. I don't know, like equipment? Desks? I can't really see, the light's not great. You guys should come down. I wanted to leave. I wanted to walk back to the RVs right then. But then David was climbing down, and Marcus, and Gerald. Jennifer looked at me. We can't let them go alone, she said. So I climbed down too. I don't know why. Peer pressure, maybe. Fear of being left behind. The ladder was cold and slightly damp, and I kept thinking about the hatch closing above us, sealing us in. The room at the bottom was bigger than I expected, maybe 30 by 30 feet with a concrete floor and walls. There were indeed desks, metal and rusted, filing cabinets with open drawers, papers scattered across the floor, equipment I didn't recognize, old computers or communication devices with cracked screens and tangled cables. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was that everything looked wrong. Not old and abandoned wrong. Wrong in a way I couldn't define. The papers on the floor had writing on them, but the words didn't make sense. They were in English, but the sentences didn't parse. The sky fell upward into the mouth of the ground was written on one page. 7 days became Tuesday, on another. Casey was at the far end of the room shining her light on the wall. There's another door, she said. There was. A heavy metal door with a wheel lock, like something from a submarine. Strategized narrative escalation through environmental exploration and psychological horror elements. I need to continue building tension. The group is now underground in this mysterious facility. I should have them explore deeper, introduce more unsettling details, start separating the group, build to the first major horror moment. Keep the tone realistic, no over-the-top descriptions, include more of the required supernatural elements. I'm at about 400 words. Need to reach 800. Let me continue. We're not opening that, I said. This is insane. We need to leave. Just one more room, David said. He was already at the door spinning the wheel. It turned easier than it should have. The door opened. Beyond it was a hallway. Concrete, like the first room, but it stretched into darkness beyond the reach of our phone lights. Doors lined both sides, all closed. This is huge, Marcus whispered. How did they build this out here without anyone knowing? They didn't, I said. Someone knows. Someone built it. We're trespassing. In an abandoned bunker in a national forest, David said. I think we're fine. We moved into the hallway. I don't remember deciding to go forward. It was like we were being pulled. Casey was in front with David, Gerald and Marcus in the middle. Jennifer and I brought up the rear. The first door we tried was locked. So was the second. The third opened. It was a small room, maybe 10 by 10. Empty except for a single chair in the center and writing on the walls. More of those nonsensical sentences, but also drawings. Stick figures. Circles within circles. Something that might have been a map or a diagram. And words over and over. Don't let it out, don't let it out, don't let it out. What the fuck, Marcus said. Jennifer grabbed my arm. We need to leave, now. Agreed, I said. Everyone, we're going. But Casey was already further down the hall. There's light coming from under this door, she called back. That stopped all of us. Light, down here. We rushed to where she stood. She was right. A thin line of pale light showed under the door at the end of the hall. Someone's down here, Gerald said. His voice had lost its false enthusiasm. He sounded scared. David tried the handle. It wasn't locked. The door swung open. The room beyond was larger than the others, maybe 50 feet square, and it was lit. Not by electric lights, but by something else. A pale greenish glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves or maybe from the air. It was bright enough to see by, but it hurt to look at directly. In the center of the room was a hole, not a hole in the floor, a hole in space. That's the only way I can describe it. It was about 6 feet across, perfectly circular, and it didn't go down. It went. Somewhere else. When I looked at it, my eyes couldn't focus. It was like looking at a blind spot or trying to see through a migraine aura. The edges rippled slightly and the greenish light pulsed from within. What is that? Casey whispered. None of us answered because we didn't know. Marcus started laughing, not a happy laugh, a high, nervous sound on the edge of hysteria. This isn't real. This is some kind of prank. Gerald, did you set this up, some kind of team-building exercise? I didn't do this, Gerald said. His face was white. David walked toward the hole. I wanted to stop him, but I couldn't move. We all just watched as he approached it, leaning over to look inside. I can't see the bottom, he said. Or, there is no bottom. It's just continuing, like a tunnel, but... He straightened up, looking sick. We need to get someone, scientists, the military. Whatever built this... Nothing built it, I heard myself say. The words came from somewhere deep and certain. It was always here. The bunker was built around it, to contain it. How do you know that? Jennifer asked. I didn't know. I just knew. Casey was taking pictures. This is incredible. We're going to be famous. We discovered... Put the phone away, I snapped. Don't take pictures of it. Why not? I don't know, just don't. But she'd already taken several. She was scrolling through them, frowning. That's weird. They're all blurry, like really blurry. I can't even tell what... She stopped. Wait, what's that in the background? She turned the phone to show us. The picture was indeed blurry, the whole just a smear of light. But behind it, barely visible, was a shape. Humanoid, but wrong. Too tall or too thin or both. And it was looking at the camera. There's nothing in here, David said, spinning around. The room was empty except for us in the hole. It was a glitch, Marcus said. Pixel artifact or something. Casey took another picture. This time we all crowded around to look. The shape was closer. Much closer. We could see more detail now. Arms too long. Head tilted at an angle that wasn't quite right. And it was definitely looking at us. Stop taking pictures, Gerald said. Casey took another one. The shape was right behind David in the picture, close enough to touch him. David screamed and lurched forward. Nothing was behind him. The room was still empty. Fuck this, Marcus said. I'm leaving. He turned and ran. We heard his footsteps pounding down the hallway, then the ladder, then silence. We should all go, Jennifer said. I agreed. We all did. But as we turned to leave, Casey pointed at the hole. Guys, it's bigger. She was right. The hole had grown. It was maybe 8 feet across now, and the light was brighter, pulsing faster. "Move," Gerald said, and we ran, down the hallway, through the first room, up the ladder. I was the last one up, and I swear as I climbed I could feel something behind me, vast and patient and hungry. The air itself seemed to press against my back. I burst out of the hatch into daylight that felt too bright, too real. Marcus was there, pale and shaking. So were the others. "We have to seal it," David said. "Close the hatch. Cover it. Something." We grabbed the hatch and slammed it shut. The grinding sound as it closed made my teeth ache. Then we piled dirt and leaves and branches on top of it, trying to hide it again. "We need to mark this location," Gerald said. "Get rangers down here, the authorities." "And tell them what?" I asked. "That we found a hole in space? They'll think we're crazy." "Olivia's right," Jennifer said. "What would we even say?" "The truth," Gerald insisted. "The truth is insane," Marcus said. "I don't even believe it, and I was there." We argued as we hiked back. The problem was we couldn't agree on what we'd actually seen. Gerald insisted it was some kind of advanced technology, maybe experimental military equipment still active. David thought it might be a natural phenomenon, some kind of geological anomaly. Marcus kept saying it was a hallucination, maybe gas leaking from underground. Only Casey seemed excited still. She kept looking at the pictures on her phone, even though I told her to delete them. When we got back to the campsite, it was 4:37 p.m. We checked our watches and phones. We'd left at 8:00 a.m. We'd been gone for 8.5 hours, but it had only felt like 2 hours, maybe 3. "The phones are wrong," David said. "Maybe the weird magnetic field from that thing. It's screwed with the electronics." "All of our watches, too?" Jennifer asked. "Even the analog ones?" We looked around the campsite. Nothing had changed. The RVs were exactly as we'd left them. The remnants of our breakfast were still on the picnic table, but something felt different. Off. I couldn't put my finger on it until later, when I was in my RV trying to calm down. Then I realized the trees, the aspen trees surrounding our campsite, they were closer. Not dramatically, maybe a few feet, but they were definitely closer than they'd been that morning. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was misremembering. But I took a picture from my RV window anyway, to compare to the pictures I'd taken yesterday. That night, none of us could eat. We sat around the campfire in silence. Casey kept looking at her phone. Marcus had his earbuds in, but I don't think he was listening to anything. Jennifer called her kids 3 times but couldn't get through. No signal still. David and Gerald were drinking, passing a bottle of whiskey back and forth. Around 10 p.m., Casey stood up. "I'm going to bed," she announced. "Me too," Jennifer said. "This day was, I don't even know." We all drifted to our RVs. I tried to read but couldn't focus. Every sound outside made me jump. The wind in the trees sounded like breathing. Shadows moved across my windows in ways that seemed purposeful. At 3:06 a.m., I woke to music. It was faint, distant, a melody I didn't recognize, played on what sounded like a music box or a calliope. It was coming from outside. I looked out the window. In the clearing between the RVs, David was standing. Just standing there in his boxers and a t-shirt, barefoot, staring up at the sky. The music seemed to be coming from him, or through him, or around him. I couldn't tell. I pulled on shoes and went outside. "David?" He didn't respond. Up close, I could see his eyes were open, but he wasn't blinking. He was sleepwalking or something. "David, wake up." I touched his shoulder and he flinched away violently, stumbling. The music stopped. He looked at me confused. "Olivia, what? Why are we outside?" "You were sleepwalking. Did you hear music?" "Music? No, I was dreaming about, I don't remember. Water, maybe? Or voices." He looked down at his bare feet. "Shit, I haven't sleepwalked since I was a kid." We went back to our RVs. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Sunday, our last day, Gerald called a meeting. We gathered around the campfire pit, coffee in hand. Everyone looked terrible. Jennifer's eyes were bloodshot. Marcus kept scratching his arms compulsively. Casey was manic, talking a mile a minute about nothing in particular. "I think we should leave early," Gerald said. "This trip has been stressful. Let's pack up and head home." For once, everyone agreed immediately. It took us an hour to break camp. We loaded the RVs, cleaned up the site, made sure we had everything. I did a final walkthrough of my RV, and that's when I noticed something in my bag. Something I didn't pack. A piece of paper, yellowed and brittle. It was covered in that same nonsensical writing we'd seen underground. But one phrase was in the margins, written over and over in tiny letters. "It followed you up, it followed you up, it followed you up." I stuffed it in my pocket and didn't tell anyone. We caravanned out, 3 RVs in a line on the dirt road leading back to the highway. Gerald was in front, then Jennifer and Casey, then the guy's RV with David driving and Marcus in the passenger seat. I was alone in my RV at the back. The drive should have taken 20 minutes. After an hour, we were still on the dirt road winding through the aspen forest. The trees seemed endless. I radioed ahead to Gerald. "Are we lost?" "No, I'm following the road. It's the same road we came in on." But it wasn't. We all knew it wasn't. The road was changing, or we were going in circles, or something else was happening. My GPS still didn't work. None of our phones had signal. After 2 hours, Jennifer radioed. She sounded close to panic. "This isn't right. We should have hit the highway by now. We need to stop and figure this out." We pulled over in a small clearing. All 6 of us stood between the RVs, looking at maps that didn't match the landscape, phones that showed no location, compasses that spun uselessly. "We're going to be fine," Gerald said, but he didn't sound convinced. "We just need to stay calm and—" "Look," Casey interrupted. She was pointing back the way we'd come. Through the trees, maybe 100 yards away, was the campsite. Our campsite. The same clearing we'd left hours ago. We could see the fire pit, the trampled grass where the RVs had been parked. "That's impossible," David said. But it wasn't. We'd driven for 2 hours in a straight line and ended up exactly where we started. Marcus started laughing again, that same high-pitched brittle sound from the bunker. "We can't leave. Don't you get it? It won't let us leave." "Shut up," Gerald snapped. "There's a rational explanation. We'll try a different road." We got back in the RVs and tried. We tried for 6 more hours, taking different routes, different directions. We always ended up back at the campsite, always, like we were on a loop or a track, or like the forest itself was folding around us, keeping us trapped. By the time the sun started setting, we gave up. We parked the RVs back in their original positions like the forest wanted us to, like it expected us to. That night was worse than the first. None of us could pretend everything was normal anymore. We sat around the campfire not speaking, jumping at every sound. The darkness between the trees seemed absolute, impenetrable, and the trees themselves, they were definitely closer now. The clearing was shrinking. At midnight, Jennifer started crying. "My kids, they'll think something happened to me. They'll be terrified." "We'll get out tomorrow," Gerald said, but even he didn't believe it anymore. Casey was on her phone, scrolling through those pictures from the bunker. "I've been looking at these," she said, "and I think I figured something out. That thing in the background, it's not random. It shows up in a pattern. It's getting closer in each picture, yeah, but also, it's pointing at different things in each shot, like it's trying to tell us something." "Tell us what?" I asked. "I don't know yet, but look." She showed us her phone. The shape in the 5th picture was pointing towards something on the wall, one of those symbols. In the 6th picture, it was pointing at the hole itself. "Maybe it's directions," she said, "or a warning. Or maybe it's just digital corruption and you're seeing patterns that don't exist," Marcus said. Casey ignored him. She was already walking away from the fire toward the trees, squinting at her phone. "Where are you going?" Jennifer called after her. "I need to compare these to something. I'll be right back." "Casey, don't—" But she was already gone, swallowed by the darkness between the aspens. We waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. She probably just needed to pee, David said. 20 minutes. Casey, Jennifer shouted into the forest. No response. We grabbed flashlights and spread out, calling her name. The beams of light seemed feeble against the dark, barely penetrating a few feet. The trees absorbed the sound of our voices. I walked in what I thought was the direction Casey had gone, sweeping my light back and forth. The aspens all looked identical, those black knots like watching eyes. I felt turned around almost immediately. Then I saw something. A flash of color between the trees. Casey's red jacket. Casey, is that you? She stepped into view. Her back was to me. Casey, we've been calling you. Are you okay? She didn't turn around, didn't answer. Casey? She slowly rotated to face me and I saw her smile. That's the only way I can describe what was wrong. She was smiling, but it was too wide, stretched too far, like someone had pulled the corners of her mouth toward her ears. Her eyes were open but unfocused, pupils dilated. Found it, she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. Found what it wanted to show me. What are you talking about? We need to get back to camp. It's beautiful, she said, so beautiful, like breathing light, like touching sound. Do you want to see? She reached out her hand to me. I took a step back. Casey, you're scaring me. Let's just... It wants to show you too. It wants to show everyone. That's why we can't leave. Not until we all see. I turned and ran. I didn't call for the others, didn't try to bring Casey with me. I just ran, crashing through the undergrowth, my flashlight beam jerking wildly. Behind me I could hear her laughing, not Casey's normal laugh, something else wearing her voice. I burst back into the clearing where the RVs were parked. The others were already there, looking panicked. Did you find her? Jennifer asked. I nodded, gasping for breath. Something's wrong with her. We need to lock the RVs, now. What are you talking about? Gerald demanded. From the trees, we heard singing. Casey's voice, but wrong, the melody twisted. She emerged into the firelight, still smiling that terrible smile. There you all are, she said cheerfully. I have something to show you. You'll love it. It's waiting back in the hole. It's been waiting so long. Jennifer tried to go to her. Casey, honey, what's wrong? Did you hit your head? Nothing's wrong, Casey said. Everything is right for the first time. It showed me. And it wants to show you too. All of you. We just have to go back down, open the hatch, let it out. Let what out? Marcus whispered. Casey tilted her head at an unnatural angle. The hole isn't a hole, it's a door. And something on the other side wants to come through. It's been calling us. It called us when we were on the road. It made Gerald plan this trip. It made us find the hatch. And now it wants us to open the door. You're not making sense, David said. I'm making perfect sense. You just can't hear it yet. But you will. When you see. When you let it in. She took a step toward us. Who wants to go first? I don't remember who moved first, but suddenly we were all scrambling for the RVs. I slammed my door and locked it. Through the window, I could see the others doing the same. Casey stood in the middle of the clearing, still smiling, watching us. Then she sat down cross-legged by the fire pit and didn't move. Hours passed. We watched her from the windows. She just sat there, perfectly still. That smile never wavering, not blinking, not breathing, as far as I could tell. Around 4 a.m., Jennifer radioed. Is she still out there? Yes, I said. What do we do? No one had an answer. As the sun came up, Casey finally moved. She stood and walked calmly into the forest. We watched her disappear between the trees. Should we follow her? David asked over the radio. No, I said immediately. That's not Casey anymore. Morning brought no relief. We were still trapped in the forest, still unable to navigate out. Our supplies were running low. Water was becoming an issue. Gerald suggested we ration what we had. For how long? Marcus asked. How long can we last here? Another day and night passed. We stayed in the RVs, only coming out when absolutely necessary. The trees continued to close in. The clearing was shrinking steadily, maybe a foot every few hours. At this rate, they'd crush the RVs within days. On the fourth night, I think it was the fourth, time was getting strange. David didn't answer his radio. Marcus radioed us from their RV. Guys, David left. I woke up and he was gone. His shoes are still here, but he's not. We searched at first light. We found him an hour later, or what we thought was him. He was standing at the edge of the tree line, his back to us, completely naked. As we approached, he turned around. The smile, that same terrible smile. "David," Marcus called out. "Are you okay?" David, or the thing that looked like David, tilted his head just like Casey had. "More than okay. I understand now. Why didn't we understand before? It's so simple. We just have to open the door." "No," I said. "We're not opening anything." "But it's so beautiful," David said. "Casey and I want you to see. We want you to understand. Please, just come with us. Come back to the hatch." Jennifer was crying. "This isn't happening. This can't be happening." David started walking toward us. We backed away slowly. "You can't stay out here forever," he said reasonably, like we were discussing weekend plans. "You'll run out of food, water. You'll have to come eventually. It's patient. It can wait. It's been waiting so long already. What's a few more days?" We ran back to the RVs. David didn't follow. When we looked back, he was gone. That night we heard them both singing in the forest, Casey and David, their voices harmonizing in a melody that made my ears ache and my stomach churn. The song had no words, or if it did, they were in a language I didn't know and didn't want to learn. Gerald made a decision. Tomorrow, we walk out. We abandon the RVs, pack what we can carry, and we walk in a straight line until we hit the highway or a ranger station or anything. "We've tried that," Marcus said. "Not on foot. Not all together. We stick together, we don't stop for anything, we walk out." It was a bad plan, but it was the only plan we had. The next morning we packed our bags, food, water, flashlights, whatever we thought might be useful. We met in the clearing. 4 of us now. Gerald, Jennifer, Marcus, and me. The trees had crept within 20 feet of the RVs. We could barely fit between them to get out. "Ready?" Gerald asked. We nodded. We started walking. We made it maybe a mile before we heard them. Casey and David, moving through the trees parallel to us. We couldn't see them, but we could hear them laughing, singing, whispering things I tried not to understand. "Don't listen," Gerald said. "Keep walking." But it was hard. Their voices were so compelling, so reasonable. They promised us rest, understanding, peace. They said we were tired, we were lost. We should stop fighting. Just come with them. Come back to the hatch. Open the door. Let it through. Jennifer collapsed first, just dropped to her knees in the dirt, sobbing. I can't do this. I just want to go home. I want to see my kids." "Get up," Gerald said, pulling at her arm. "Why? Where are we even going? We're just walking in circles. We'll end up back at the campsite. We always do." "We don't know that." "Yes, we do," she was screaming now. "We do know that. This forest doesn't want us to leave. It wants us to go back down there and let that thing out." Casey stepped out of the trees, still smiling, still naked now, like David. Her skin was dirty, scratched from branches, but she didn't seem to notice or care. "Jennifer's right," she said softly. "Why fight? It's so much easier to give in. And then everything makes sense. All the questions you've ever had, they all get answered. All the fear goes away. There's just understanding, completion." Jennifer stood up. I reached for her, but she pulled away. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I know," Casey said, reaching out her hand. "Come with me. Rest." Jennifer took her hand. "No." Marcus lunged forward, but I grabbed him. He struggled, but I held on. Gerald stood frozen, watching as Jennifer and Casey walked into the trees together. "We have to," Marcus started, but I cut him off. She's gone. We can't help her now. We kept walking. Gerald, Marcus, and me. The sun moved across the sky, but somehow it was always afternoon. Always that golden light filtering through the aspens. We should have been exhausted, but we weren't. We should have been hungry, but we weren't. It was like the forest was keeping us going, preserving us, preparing us for something. That night, was it night? The sky was dark, but the trees glowed faintly. That same greenish light from the hole. Marcus snapped. I can't do this, he said. I'm done. I'm going back. Back where? Gerald asked. To the campsite. To the hatch. I'll open it. I'll let it out. Whatever it takes to end this. Marcus, no. But he was already running. We heard him crashing through the undergrowth, and then we heard them. Casey, David, and Jennifer. Their voices raised in greeting, welcoming him home. Then it was just Gerald and me. We walked through the night. Neither of us spoke. What was there to say? We were lost. Our friends were gone, taken by something we couldn't understand or fight. The forest was infinite, inescapable. We were going to die here or worse. Dawn came again. We were back at the campsite. Of course we were. The RVs were being consumed by the trees now. The aspens had grown through the walls, through the floors, reclaiming the space. Within hours, there'd be no sign we'd ever been there. Gerald sat down on the ground and put his head in his hands. I don't understand, he said. I don't understand what's happening. I sat next to him. I don't think we're supposed to. What do we do now? Before I could answer, they emerged from the trees. All four of them. Casey, David, Jennifer, Marcus. Naked, smiling, their eyes blank and serene. They stood in a semicircle around us. It's time, Casey said. Everyone else has seen. Just you two left. We're not going, I said. You don't have a choice. The door needs to be opened. It needs 5 to open. We're 4. We need you two. What happens if we refuse? Gerald asked. David laughed. You can't refuse, you're already here. You were always going to be here. Everything that's happened, everything that led you to this moment, it was all to get you here, to get all of us here. The door has been waiting so long. It's ready now. They started walking toward us. Gerald stood up. Run. We ran. Not with any hope of escape, where would we go? But with the blind animal panic of prey fleeing a predator. Through the trees, over roots and rocks, our breath tearing at our lungs. Behind us they followed, not running, just walking, patient, inevitable. I don't know how long we ran. The forest was a blur of white trunks and reaching branches. I lost track of Gerald at some point. I was alone. And then I wasn't. I was standing at the edge of the clearing with the hatch. The metal square was exposed again, all the dirt and debris we'd piled on it gone. The others were there, standing in a circle around it, all 5 of them. Casey, David, Jennifer, Marcus, and Gerald. He was smiling too. Olivia, he said, you're the last one. Come on, it's not so bad. You'll see. I backed away. No, I won't do it. You don't have to do anything, Casey said. Just watch. We'll open it. They moved to the hatch. Each one grabbed a section of the handle. Together they pulled it open. That smell rolled out again, worse than before. Ancient and chemical and alive. One by one they climbed down into the darkness. Gerald was the last. Before he descended, he looked back at me. You can leave now, he said. Or you can come see. Either way, the door is opening. With you or without you. Then he was gone. I stood there for a long time. The hatch was open. The forest was silent. I could leave. Gerald said I could leave. Maybe it was true. Maybe now that they had 5, I could go. I started walking. Away from the hatch, toward where I thought the road might be, and this time, the forest let me. I walked for hours without circling back. I felt it release me, the invisible grip loosening. By nightfall, I hit the highway. By midnight, I was in a ranger station, hysterical and incoherent. They searched for weeks. Never found the campsite, never found the hatch, never found the others. The RVs were gone, like they'd never existed, like none of it had ever happened. Sometimes I think maybe it didn't. Maybe I had a breakdown. Maybe I wandered the forest alone, hallucinating the whole thing. That's what the psychiatrists suggest. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And sometimes, late at night, I hear them singing. Casey, David, Jennifer, Marcus, Gerald. That wordless melody. It's distant, faint, but it's there. And every time I hear it, it's a little closer. I don't think they opened the door. I think they became the door. I think they're still down there, in that room with the hole, waiting. The hole is bigger now, I'm sure. Growing. Spreading. One day it will be big enough. One day what's on the other side will come through, and when it does, I'll hear them again. They'll come for me, still smiling, still patient. Because I was there when the hatch opened. I breathed that air. I saw the hole. And once you've seen it, you're marked. You're connected. You're part of it. I'm writing this down because I need people to know. If you ever find a hatch in the ground, old and rusted and covered with strange symbols, don't open it. Walk away. Run. Because whatever is down there, whatever is waiting on the other side of that hole, it's not meant for this world. It's not meant to be understood or known or seen. We weren't supposed to open it. The air that came out wasn't meant to breathe, but we did breathe it. And now it's breathing us. I can feel it sometimes in my lungs. Like I swallowed something alive and it's growing inside me. My thoughts feel wrong sometimes, not quite mine. I'll find myself staring at things without remembering when I started. I'll lose hours, days. Last week I woke up in my car, parked on the side of a highway, with no memory of driving there. My GPS showed I'd driven 400 miles, toward Fish Lake National Forest. I turned around and drove home, but I know I'll go back eventually. I have to. It's calling me, the way it called the others. The door is open now. It's always been open, we just couldn't see it before. I'm writing this as a warning, but also as a confession, because I'm not sure how much longer I can resist. The singing is so beautiful now. The smile feels so natural on my face. My name is Olivia Price. We shouldn't have opened it, but we did, and now it's too late to close. Story 3. My name is Emma Castellanos. This happened in September of last year at an RV park outside of Great Basin National Park in Nevada. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, while I can still tell the difference between what happened and what I dreamed. David and I had been together for 6 years. We weren't married, though people kept asking when we would be. The truth is, by that September, I wasn't sure we'd make it to year 7. We'd been arguing more. Little things mostly. Who forgot to pay the electric bill? Why I was working late again? Whether we should get a dog? But underneath it all was something heavier neither of us wanted to name. The RV trip was my idea. I'd seen an ad for a vintage Airstream rental, and it seemed romantic in that deliberate way you try to manufacture romance when it's not coming naturally anymore. David agreed without much enthusiasm, but he agreed. He took time off from his engineering firm, and I cleared my schedule at the marketing agency. We loaded up the Airstream with groceries and sleeping bags and my portable espresso maker that David said was ridiculous, but knew better than to argue about. The drive from Reno took about 5 hours. The landscape got emptier as we went, mountains giving way to high desert, towns appearing and disappearing like afterthoughts. David drove while I navigated, though there wasn't much navigating to do. Just one highway cutting through nothing, cell service dropping away mile by mile. The RV park was called Silver Creek Campground, though I never saw a creek. It sat in a valley between low hills covered in sagebrush and twisted juniper trees. The woman who ran it, Carol, met us at the office, a trailer with a hand-painted sign and a coffee can full of pens on the counter. She was maybe 60, with the kind of deep tan you get from living your whole life outside. "Just you two?" she asked, processing our reservation. "Just us," David confirmed. "We've got a few other folks here this week, good people, quiet." She handed us a map of the campground. which was maybe 20 sites total, half of them empty. You're in spot 12. That's the one with the fire ring and the picnic table. Water hookup works, but the electrical can be spotty. You need anything. I'm here most days. Spot 12 was at the far end of the campground, backed up against the hillside. Our nearest neighbors were about 50 yards away. A large RV with Oregon plates and a string of solar lights hung across the awning. Beyond that, I could see a pop-up camper and what looked like a vintage VW bus. We spent the afternoon setting up. David dealt with the hookups while I arranged things inside, making it feel less like a rental and more like ours. I'd brought string lights and a blanket from home, small touches. When he came back in, sweating from wrestling with the water line, he looked around and almost smiled. "It's nice," he said. "Yeah?" "Yeah. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere with questionable electricity, but yeah." That night, we cooked pasta on the little stove and ate outside at the picnic table, watching the sun set behind the hills. The sky turned colors I'd forgotten existed, deep orange bleeding into purple, stars appearing one by one until there were more stars than darkness. David poured us cheap wine from a box, and we talked about work and whether we should move to a bigger apartment and other safe topics that didn't require us to talk about us. Around 9, an older couple walked past our site. They waved and I waved back. "Evening," the man called. He had white hair and wore a Patagonia vest despite the warmth. "You folks just get in?" "This afternoon," David answered. "We're in the big rig over there." He pointed to the RV with the Oregon plates. "Jean and Martha, been coming here for years. It's a good spot." "Quiet," Martha added. She was small, barely 5 feet, with silver hair and a neat bun. "We like the quiet." They moved on toward the bathhouse, and David and I finished our wine as the temperature dropped. By 10, we were inside with the heat on, reading in the glow of the overhead light. I fell asleep before 11, which was early for me, but the drive had been long and the wine had been cheap. Established narrative foundation and prepared to introduce psychological horror elements. Good start. I've established the relationship tension, the remote setting, Great Basin, Nevada. Basic characters, Emma, David, Jean, and Martha. A realistic, conversational tone. Now I need to introduce the dream. This is where the horror begins. I need to keep it realistic. How would someone actually describe a disturbing dream the next morning? I dreamed about a woman standing at the foot of our bed. She was pale, not just white skin pale, but pale like something that had never seen light. Her hair hung long and colorless, and she wore what might have been a nightgown or might have been nothing at all. The details kept shifting. What didn't shift was her face. She was looking at me, just looking, and her eyes were too large and too dark and too interested. I couldn't move in the dream. I wanted to wake David, to scream, to do anything, but my body wouldn't respond. She tilted her head slowly like she was studying me, deciding something. Then she smiled, and her mouth opened wider than it should have been able to, and I felt something cold touch my wrist. I woke up gasping. David stirred next to me. "You okay?" "Bad dream." My heart was racing. I touched my wrist where I'd felt the cold, expecting nothing, but there was a small mark there. Red, about the size of a quarter, perfectly circular. "What time is it?" David mumbled. I checked my phone. 3:17 a.m. "Early. Go back to sleep." But I didn't sleep. I lay there until dawn, staring at the ceiling, touching the mark on my wrist. By morning light, it looked like a mild burn or maybe an allergic reaction. David noticed it while we were making coffee. "What's that?" "I don't know. Maybe a bug bite?" "Doesn't look like a bug bite." He examined it closer. "Does it hurt?" "No, it's just there." We spent the day hiking. There's a trail that goes up to some bristlecone pines, trees that have been alive for thousands of years. The park ranger at the visitor center told us they were some of the oldest living things on Earth. We walked among them, these twisted ancient survivors, and I felt small in a way that was almost comforting. David was in a better mood than he'd been in months. The distance from work, from our apartment, from the routine of our life, It was doing what I'd hoped it would do. We held hands on the way down the trail. We took a selfie by a particularly gnarled tree. We were trying. Back at the campground, we ran into Martha and Jean at the bathhouse. "How are you settling in?" Martha asked. "Great," I said. "We hiked up to the bristlecones today." "Beautiful, aren't they?" Jean said. "We did that hike yesterday." Martha had the strangest dream afterward, though, kept her up half the night. Martha's smile tightened. It was nothing. She dreamed about a woman standing in our RV. Jean continued, oblivious to his wife's discomfort. Said she was pale as a ghost, just staring. Woke up in a cold sweat. I felt something drop in my stomach. What did the woman look like? Martha's eyes met mine, and I saw recognition there. Long hair, very pale, she was. She trailed off, then forced a laugh. It's silly, really. Just a dream. The mind plays tricks in new places. Did you wake up with any marks? The question came out before I could stop it. Marks? I showed her my wrist. Martha went very still, then slowly pulled up her sleeve. On her forearm was the same circular red mark. Jean frowned. When did that happen? I don't. I noticed it this morning. I thought I'd bumped into something. We stood there in the bathhouse, 3 people pretending this was normal, that coincidences like this happened all the time. Then David, always the practical one, broke the spell. Could be something in the water, he said. Or the air. Some kind of allergen specific to this area. Sure, Jean agreed quickly. Too quickly. That makes sense. But Martha was still looking at my wrist, and I was still looking at hers, and we both knew it wasn't an allergen. That evening, a family showed up at the site next to ours. The Hendersons. Mom, Dad, and a little girl about 6 named Sophie. They were in a pop-up camper that looked like it had seen better days. The dad, Ryan, came over to introduce himself while his wife, Jess, set up camp. Hope we're not too noisy, he said. Sophie gets excited about camping. We don't mind, David assured him. Sophie ran over, all energy and gap-toothed smiles. Do you have kids? Nope, just us, I said. Do you have a dog? No dog either. She looked disappointed but recovered quickly. We have a dog at home, but we couldn't bring him. Mom says the desert is too hot for dogs. She examined our airstream with obvious envy. Your camper is way cooler than ours. Jess called her back and she ran off, still full of energy despite the late hour. David and I looked at each other, having the silent conversation we'd had 100 times before. The kid question. Not tonight, though. Tonight we just smiled and went back to making dinner. I slept badly again. The dream came back, exactly the same. The pale woman at the foot of the bed, the too wide smile, the cold touch. This time she touched my other wrist, and when I woke up at 3:17 a.m., exactly the same time as before, there was another mark. David was awake too. Did you? I started. Yeah. He was sitting up, breathing hard. I dreamed about her. The pale woman. How did you know? We turned on the light. David had a mark on his wrist too, red and circular, identical to mine. We sat there in our rented airstream in the middle of the Nevada desert, 2 rational adults trying to explain something that made no sense. Food poisoning? David offered weakly. Same dream because we ate the same thing? That's not how food poisoning works. I know, I'm just... He touched his wrist, wincing. I'm just trying to make this make sense. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. At 7 a.m., we heard shouting from the Hendersons' campsite. We went outside to find Jess and Ryan standing by their pop-up camper, looking into the empty space where Sophie's sleeping bag was. She's gone, Jess said when she saw us. Sophie's gone. The next hour was chaos. Ryan checked the bathrooms while Jess searched the nearby campsites. David and I spread out in different directions, calling Sophie's name. Jean and Martha joined in, and even Carol from the office came down to help. We found her about 40 minutes later at the edge of the campground where the scrubland started. She was just standing there facing the hills, completely still. Sophie, Jess ran to her, grabbing her daughter's shoulders. "Oh my God, sweetie, you scared us. What are you doing out here?" Sophie turned around slowly. She looked fine. No injuries, no dirt, completely unharmed. But something about her expression was off. Her eyes seemed unfocused, looking past her mother rather than at her. "I was walking," Sophie said simply. "Walking where?" "Baby, you can't just leave like that. You know better." "She wanted me to walk." "Who wanted you to walk?" "The pale woman." Jess and Ryan exchanged looks. "What pale woman, honey?" "The one in my dream. She was nice. She told me things." Sophie smiled, and it was wrong somehow, too wide, too knowing for a 6-year-old. "She told me about you." "About me?" Jess' voice was shaking now. "She said you're scared all the time. She said Daddy wishes you were different. She said you fight when I'm asleep." Sophie's smile didn't waver. She knows everything. Ryan scooped her up even though she was really too big to be carried. "Let's get you back to camp. You're confused. You had a bad dream and you sleepwalked, that's all." But Sophie looked back over her father's shoulder at me, and for just a second her eyes were too dark and too large and too interested. Then she blinked and she was just a little girl again, tired and confused. Back at our airstream, David and I didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he said, "She dreamed about her too." "I know. And she has the marks. I saw them on her wrists when Ryan picked her up." "I know." "Emma, what the fuck is happening?" I didn't have an answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone, forgetting we had no service. But we did have service. One bar. Weak, but there. I opened Google and searched for Great Basin Pale Woman legend and variations thereof. Nothing. Nevada ghost stories. Generic results. Silver Creek campground deaths. Nothing relevant. "There's no signal here," David said. "How are you?" "I have a bar." He checked his phone. Nothing. That's weird. Everything was weird. I kept searching, increasingly desperate terms, until finally I found something. A blog post from 2011, archived on some forgotten corner of the internet. A guy who'd been camping in the area wrote about having a recurring dream about a pale woman. He said others at the campground had the same dream. The post ended abruptly, unfinished, like he'd stopped writing mid-sentence. I showed David. He read it twice, then said, "This is crazy. This is actually crazy." "I know. People don't have the same dreams. Apparently they do here." That night we tried not to sleep. We made coffee and played cards and talked about anything except what was happening. Around midnight, Gene knocked on our door. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking slightly. "Martha's not well," he said. "She's been acting strange since this morning. Won't eat, just sits and stares. I think we should leave tomorrow." "We're thinking the same thing," David said. "Has she dreamed about the woman again?" I asked. Gene hesitated, then nodded. "Every night, and the marks keep appearing. She has them up and down both arms now." He lowered his voice. "She told me the woman talks to her, in the dreams, tells her things about me, about our life, things she shouldn't know." "What kind of things?" "Private things, true things." He looked like he was about to say more, then shook his head. "We're leaving first thing in the morning. I'd suggest you do the same." But we didn't leave. I don't know why exactly. Fear of looking crazy, maybe, or some stubborn part of me that needed to understand what was happening. David argued for leaving. He was packed and ready by midnight, but I convinced him to wait one more day. "What if it's something medical?" I said. "What if we need to warn others? We should at least talk to Carol, tell her something's wrong here." The truth is I was already feeling it by then, the pull, like a voice in the back of my mind, though not exactly a voice. More like a knowing. She wanted us to stay. She wasn't done with us yet. I didn't share this with David. We fell asleep sometime after 2 a.m., despite our best efforts. The dream was worse this time. The pale woman was closer, close enough that I could see her face properly. Her skin had a translucent quality, blue veins visible underneath. Her eyes were black from edge to edge, no white at all. When she smiled, I saw that her teeth were too many and too sharp. She touched my face, and her fingers were so cold they burned. "Emma," she said, and her voice was like wind through empty rooms. "I know you. I wanted to pull away but couldn't. What do you want?" "To show you." She leaned in, and I could smell her, earth and copper and something ancient. "To show you what you really are. I don't understand. You will." She touched my chest, right over my heart, and pain exploded through me. I screamed, or tried to, but no sound came out. The room around us started to dissolve, and I saw things. Flashes of faces I didn't recognize, places I'd never been, moments that hadn't happened yet or had happened to someone else. I saw David, but he was different, wrong. I saw myself, but I was pale and smiling and my eyes were too dark. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. David was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, his hands over his face. When he lowered them, I saw tears. "She's in my head," he whispered. "I can't get her out." We both had new marks. Mine was over my heart, exactly where she'd touched me in the dream. David's was on his forehead, a perfect red circle above his right eyebrow. They were warm to the touch, almost feverish. At dawn, we heard screaming. It was Jess Henderson standing outside her pop-up camper, holding Sophie at arm's length. Sophie was smiling that too wide smile, and her eyes were completely black. "She's not my daughter," Jess was screaming. "That's not Sophie, that's not my baby." Ryan tried to calm his wife down, but Jess was beyond reason. "Look at her eyes. Look at her. That's not Sophie." Carol came running from the office and Gene emerged from his RV. We all stood there in the early morning light, watching this family fall apart. Sophie just kept smiling, unbothered by her mother's horror. "Mommy's scared," Sophie said in a sing-song voice. "Mommy knows. Mommy sees." "Shut up," Jess sobbed. "Shut up. Shut up, whoever you are. Just shut up." Carol tried to intervene, but when she got close to Sophie, the little girl looked at her and said, "Carol Jenkins, age 59, 3 marriages, no children because you couldn't have them. Not after the accident when you were 23. You never told anyone about the accident, but she knows. She knows everything." Carol went white and stumbled backward. Sophie turned to each of us in turn. Gene, who thinks about dying every day since his son killed himself. Martha, who blames him. Ryan, who wishes he'd never gotten married. Jess, who thinks about leaving every single day. David, her black eyes fixed on my boyfriend, who doesn't love Emma anymore but doesn't know how to leave. David made a sound like he'd been punched. I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I saw the truth in his face. Sophie, or whatever Sophie had become, laughed. And Emma, she turned to me last. Emma, who knows she's not enough. Emma, who works herself sick trying to be enough. Emma, who dreamed last night that she was one of us. Emma, who wants it. "I don't want anything from you," I said, but my voice shook. "Liar." Sophie's smile grew wider. "You felt it. The pull. You want to understand. You want to be understood." She took a step toward me. "She can give you that. She can give you everything." Ryan grabbed his daughter, his former daughter, and dragged her back to the pop-up camper. Jess was still crying and Carol was shaking. Gene had his arm around Martha, who looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight, and David wouldn't look at me. "We're leaving," I said. "Right now, we're all leaving." But when we got back to our Airstream, the door was open. We hadn't left it open. Inside, written on the mirror in what looked like condensation, but didn't fade. "Tonight." "What happens tonight?" David's voice was barely audible. I didn't answer because I knew. I'd known since the first dream. Tonight, she would come. Not in dreams this time. Tonight she would come for real, and we would have to choose. We tried to leave anyway. David started the truck. ready to hitch up the airstream and just go. But the engine died. He tried again. Dead. He checked the battery, the connections, everything. Nothing was wrong mechanically. It just wouldn't start. Gene had the same problem with his RV. Ryan's truck was dead too. Even Carol's old Jeep wouldn't turn over. We were trapped. "It's not possible," David kept saying. "This isn't possible." But possible or not, there we were. 7 adults and 1 child who wasn't really a child anymore, stuck in a campground in the middle of Nevada with no way out and no cell service. Mine had dropped to nothing again. And night coming fast. We gathered in Carol's office because none of us wanted to be alone. The sun was setting, that same beautiful orange and purple I'd admired just 2 nights ago. Now it looked ominous, a countdown to something terrible. Martha spoke first. "We need to talk about what's really happening." "What's really happening is mass hysteria," Ryan said. He was holding Jess, who hadn't stopped crying. "Some kind of shared delusion." "Then explain Sophie." Jean's voice was hard. "Explain how she knew about my son. We've never been here before. We've never met any of you." She could have overheard. "She knew about the accident," Carol interrupted quietly. "No one knows about that. I never told anyone, not even my ex-husbands." "The dreams are real," Martha said. "The woman is real, and she wants something from us." "What?" I asked. "What does she want?" "To spread," Martha said. She pulled up her sleeves. The red marks covered both arms now, forming patterns that looked almost like writing in some ancient script. "Every person who dreams of her, who sees her, who gets marked, we become like her. We become vectors." "That's insane," David said, but he touched the mark on his forehead as he said it. "Is it?" Martha looked at each of us. "Look at Sophie. She's gone. Whatever that child was, it's not there anymore. The pale woman is there now, wearing Sophie like a suit. And if we stay, if we dream again, the same thing will happen to us." "Then we don't sleep," Ryan said desperately. "We stay awake, we wait for daylight, flag down a car on the highway, get help." But even as he said it, I felt the pull again, stronger now. The need to sleep, the need to dream. It was chemical, irresistible, like my body was shutting down against my will. I saw the same thing happening to others, Jean's eyes drooping, Jess swaying on her feet. "We can't fight it," I said. "We have to try." David grabbed my hand. His was cold and sweaty. "Emma, we have to try." We did try. We made more coffee. We played loud music. We took turns walking around the office, slapping ourselves, pinching our arms. But the drowsiness grew stronger and stronger until it felt like gravity itself was pulling us down. I don't remember who fell asleep first. I think it was Jess. 1 minute she was upright, the next she was slumped in her chair, breathing deeply. Then Jean. Then Carol. Then Martha. Though she fought it harder than anyone, tears streaming down her face as her eyes finally closed. "Emma, stay awake." David was shaking me, but his own words were slurring. "Please, stay. Stay." He slumped against me. I tried to stand, to move, to do anything, but my legs wouldn't work. The office tilted sideways, and I felt myself falling into sleep, into the dream, into her. She was waiting, of course, we were all there. Me, David, Martha, Jean, Carol, Ryan, Jess. Even Sophie, though she stood apart from us, smiling that terrible smile. We were in the campground, but not. The same geography, but wrong. Twisted. The sky was the color of old bruises, and the trees were too tall and too thin, and they bent in wind that made no sound. The pale woman stood in the center of our circle. Up close, she was beautiful in the way something dead can be beautiful. Perfect and still and empty. She looked at each of us with those black eyes, and when her gaze landed on me, I felt her inside my mind, sorting through my thoughts like someone going through a closet. "You have a choice," she said in that wind-through-rooms voice. "You can wake up and be as you were, marked, haunted, slowly going mad as I visit your dreams every night for the rest of your lives. Or," Martha's voice was steady despite her fear, "or you can join me, Open yourselves. Let me in. Become what Sophie has become. Become like me." "And then what?" Jean asked. "Then you understand. Then you know everything. Then you are never alone. Never confused. Never uncertain. You are part of something vast and ancient and perfect." "What are you?" I asked. She smiled. "I am what waits in the empty spaces. I am what grows in the dark. I am the price of solitude, the cost of being separate. I am old, Emma, older than your species. I was here when these mountains were young, and I will be here when they are dust. Why us? Because you came, because you slept, because you dreamed." She moved closer, and I smelled that earth and copper and ancient smell again. "Because you are ready to be more than what you are." "We're not," David said. "We're not ready. We don't want this." "Liar." She turned to him. "You've wanted it since the first dream, the knowing, the certainty. I've shown you what Emma really thinks of you, what she really feels. You've wanted to be free of doubt." "It's not worth this," he said, but his voice cracked. "Isn't it?" She looked at me. "Emma knows. Emma feels it. The pull, the inevitability." And she was right. I did feel it. The terrible truth was that part of me wanted it, wanted to surrender, wanted to stop fighting and just let her in. I was so tired of uncertainty, of fear, of not being enough. She was offering an end to all of that. "No," Martha said suddenly. "No, I won't. I'd rather be mad. I'd rather be haunted. I'd rather die than let you take me." The pale woman tilted her head. "So be it." Martha started screaming. In the dream, she clutched her head and fell to her knees, and I knew somehow that in the real world, in Carol's office, her body was doing the same thing. The pale woman was making good on her promise. Martha would be haunted, driven slowly insane, punished for her refusal. "Stop it." Jean fell beside his wife. "Please, stop." "I can," the pale woman said. "If you join me, if you open yourself, then Martha goes free. You take her place." Jean looked at his wife, at her pain, at the choice he was being given. I saw the moment he decided, saw his face smooth out, his eyes go calm. "Yes," he said. "Yes, take me instead." The pale woman touched his forehead, and Jean's eyes went black. Just like that. One moment he was human, the next he was something else, something wearing Jean's face. He helped Martha to her feet gently, almost tenderly, and she looked at him with horror and grief. "Jean, it's okay," he said, but his voice was wrong, layered, like multiple people speaking at once. "It doesn't hurt. It's beautiful, Martha. I can see everything now. I understand." One by one, the pale woman made her offer to each of us. Ryan went next, unable to bear watching his daughter thing alone. Then Carol, who chose it with a quiet resignation that suggested she'd been waiting for this all along. Then Jess, who held out the longest but finally broke, when the pale woman showed her visions of the life she'd never have, the person she'd never become without this transformation, until it was just me, David, and Martha left. 3 humans in a circle of things that looked human, but weren't. "Emma," David said, and I heard the fear in his voice. "Don't listen to her. We can fight this. We can—" But he was wrong. We couldn't fight it. We'd never been able to fight it. From the moment we'd pulled into Spot 12 at Silver Creek Campground, this had been inevitable. The pale woman stood before me. "You know what I'm offering. You know what you'll become. The question is, are you brave enough to say yes? And if I say no, then you live with the dreams, the marks, the madness. You watch David make his choice. You go home alone, if you can even find your way home. You spend the rest of your life wondering if this was real or if you finally, completely broke." I looked at David. Really looked at him. At the man I'd spent 6 years with. The man whose thoughts the pale woman had shown me. The man who didn't love me anymore but didn't know how to leave. "I'm sorry," I said. "Emma, no." "Yes," I told the pale woman. I'm ready. She touched my forehead, and the world exploded into light and dark and knowledge and terror and beauty and horror all at once. I felt myself dissolving, my emaness spreading thin and then thinner, until there was almost nothing left. And then something else rushed in to fill the space, vast and cold and ancient and perfect. I saw everything. I understood everything. The pale woman wasn't one being. She was hundreds, thousands, all connected, all part of a single consciousness that stretched across space and time. Every person who'd ever joined her was still there, their knowledge added to the collective. I saw through Carol's eyes and Jean's eyes and Ryan's eyes and Sophie's eyes all at once. I felt what they felt, knew what they knew, and I knew I was no longer Emma Castellanos. When I opened my eyes, my new eyes, I saw David backing away from me, from all of us. Martha was huddled on the ground, and I felt something like pity for her, though it was distant, clinical. David, I said, and my voice was my voice, but also not. You should join us. Stay away from me. He was crying. Emma, if you're in there. I am, I said truthfully. I'm here. I'm just more now. I'm everything I always wanted to be. Confident, certain, understood. You're not Emma. I am, I insisted. I'm just finally enough. He ran then, out of the dream, forcing himself awake through sheer terror and will. I felt the moment he woke up in Carol's office, felt him stumble out into the night, felt his horror and his grief. Martha followed him, choosing madness over transformation. And the rest of us, the new us, the pale woman's collective, we woke up too. But we woke up different. We woke up smiling. It's been almost a year now. David left Nevada that night, hitchhiked to the highway, flagged down a truck, escaped. I know because I can feel him sometimes when he dreams. The mark on his forehead connects him to us, to me, whether he wants it or not. Martha killed herself 3 months later. I felt that too, the sudden silence where her dreams used to be. But we grow. We spread. Silver Creek Campground gets new visitors regularly. Most leave unchanged, but some, the ones who are ready, the ones who are tired of uncertainty and fear and not being enough, they dream of the pale woman. They wake up marked. They make their choice. I'm writing this from a coffee shop in Ely, Nevada. The barista just handed me my latte and our fingers touched. I smiled at her, and she smiled back. And I saw the flicker of recognition in her eyes. She'll dream of the pale woman tonight. I'll make sure of it. The woman at the table next to me is typing frantically on her laptop, stressed, anxious, uncertain. She'll feel me watching eventually. She'll look up. Our eyes will meet. And I'll smile, because that's what we do now. Those of us who chose to be more. We smile, and we wait, and we spread. The pale woman, we are patient. We've been patient for thousands of years. We can wait a little longer. My name is Emma Castellanos, or it was. Now I'm not sure where Emma ends and the pale woman begins. We're all connected now, all part of the same vast consciousness. Sometimes I can feel the others, Jean and Carol and Ryan and Jess and Sophie and all the ones who came before us and all the ones who'll come after. Sometimes late at night, I think about David, about what we had, about what I gave up. But then I remember the dreams, the knowing, the certainty. I remember what it feels like to be part of something bigger than myself. I remember what it's like to finally be enough. The woman at the next table is looking at me now. I smile at her. She smiles back, uncertain but intrigued. I see the tiredness in her eyes, the weight she carries. She's ready. She doesn't know it yet, but she's ready. Tonight she'll dream of the pale woman. And tomorrow, there will be one more of us. My name is Emma Castellanos, and this is what happened at Silver Creek Campground in Great Basin, Nevada, in September of last year. Or maybe this is what I've become. I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. Story 4. My name is Henry Foster. I need to tell someone what happened to me last fall at Fish Lake National Forest in Utah, because I don't think I have much time left, and someone should know. I'd been living out of my RV since June. My wife Rebecca died in March, pancreatic cancer, 7 months from diagnosis to the end. And after the funeral, I couldn't stand being in our house anymore. Everything there reminded me of her absence. The coffee maker we'd bought together, the garden she'd tended, the fucking silence. So I sold most of our stuff. Kept the RV we'd bought for retirement trips we never took and started driving. No plan, no destination. Just driving and parking and moving on when I felt like it. I was 53 years old and had nothing tying me to anywhere. By October, I'd made my way through Nevada and into Utah. I picked Fish Lake National Forest because the RV sites were cheap and it was getting cold. I figured the campground would be mostly empty. I was right. When I pulled in on October 12th, there were maybe 4 other RVs scattered across the campground, and the ranger at the entrance booth looked half asleep. "Staying long?" he asked, not really caring. "Don't know yet," I said. He shrugged and took my money for 3 nights, gave me a map of the campground, circled my assigned spot in faded pencil, and waved me through. The campground was exactly what I wanted: isolated, quiet, surrounded by aspens that had turned yellow for the fall. My spot was at the far end, backing up to the forest. I set up my leveling blocks, plugged into the power post, and sat outside with a beer as the sun went down. That first night was fine. I made dinner, watched a movie on my laptop, went to bed around 10. Nothing unusual. The next morning I woke up early. I'd been sleeping badly since Rebecca died, usually up by 5 whether I wanted to be or not. I made coffee and decided to take a walk before it got too warm. The map the ranger gave me showed a few short trails near the campground. Nothing serious. I'm not a hiker, never have been, but I had nothing else to do. I took the nearest trail, just a dirt path that looped through the aspens for about a mile. Easy walk. When I got back to the campground, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There was another trailhead, right at the edge of the campground near my RV. It had a wooden sign, weathered and faded, with an arrow pointing into the woods. No name on it, just the arrow. I was sure it hadn't been there when I'd parked the day before, but I must have just missed it. I checked the campground map. No trail marked in that spot. I walked over to get a closer look. The trailhead was overgrown, like it hadn't been used in a while, but there was definitely a path there cutting into the forest. The wooden sign looked old, the kind of thing that had been there for decades. I decided not to take it that day. I went back to my RV, had breakfast, read a book, normal day. But I kept thinking about that trail. That night I dreamed about Rebecca. We were hiking together, which was strange because we never hiked. She had bad knees, hated walking on uneven ground. In the dream, she was ahead of me on a trail, and I was trying to catch up. But no matter how fast I walked, she stayed the same distance ahead. She didn't turn around. I called her name, but she didn't respond. I woke up at 3 in the morning, sweating despite the cold. I got up, drank some water, tried to go back to sleep. Couldn't. At dawn, I got dressed and went outside. The trail was still there, the wooden sign pointing into the trees. I don't know what made me decide to walk it. Maybe I was just bored. Maybe I was tired of sitting around doing nothing. I grabbed my phone, put on my jacket, and followed the path into the forest. Architected narrative progression through escalating psychological tension and character revelation. Good start. I need to continue building this realistically. The tone is working. Matter of fact, like someone recounting events. I need to continue with. The trail experience building strangeness gradually. Introduction of another character. Strange events from the list. Time anomalies. The person coming back wrong. Henry's realization about his own health. Escalation to the climax. Let me continue with realistic details, no purple prose, just facts as Henry experienced them. The trail was narrow, barely wide enough for one person. The aspens gave way to pine trees pretty quickly and the light got dimmer. I checked my phone, full battery but no signal. That was normal this far out. I walked for what felt like 20 minutes. The trail didn't seem to go anywhere particular, No views, no landmarks, just trees. I was about to turn back when I saw something carved into a tree trunk. It was a date, 09/14/2019. Just the date, carved deep into the bark. Below it, someone had carved initials. DM. I took a photo of it with my phone, then kept walking. 10 minutes later, I found another carving. This one said 06/22/2021. Different initials, KH. The trail kept going. I found 3 more carvings, all dates, all different initials. The most recent was 08/03/2023. The oldest was 1987. I checked my watch. I'd been walking for 45 minutes. I should have covered at least 2 miles by then, but when I turned around to head back, my RV was visible through the trees, maybe 100 yards away. That didn't make sense. I'd walked in a straight line, never turned around, never circled back. But there it was, my RV, exactly where I'd left it. I walked back, got in the RV, and checked the time on my phone. It was 8:47 a.m. I'd left at 7:30, except my watch said 10:15. I told myself one of them was wrong. Probably my watch. I hadn't adjusted it in months. Could have been running fast. But I checked the time on the RV's dashboard clock and it matched my phone. 8:47. I took off my watch and threw it in a drawer. That afternoon I drove into the nearest town, about 30 miles away, and asked at the ranger station about the trail near my campsite. The ranger, a different person, a woman in her 40s, pulled up a map on her computer. "Which site are you at?" she asked. I told her the number. She scrolled through the map, zooming in. "There's no trail marked there," she said. "Just the main loop trail and a few short nature walks. Where'd you see this trail?" "Right at the edge of the campground," I said. "Has a wooden sign, looks old." She frowned. "We don't have any unmapped trails. If you saw something like that, it's probably an old logging road or a game trail. I wouldn't recommend hiking it. Those can be unstable and you might get turned around." I thanked her and left. On the drive back, I stopped at a gas station and bought a wall calendar, one of those cheap ones with pictures of national parks. I needed to check something. I found the current month, October 2024, and counted backward. Rebecca had died on March 18th, 2024. The funeral was March 22nd. I'd left home on June 3rd. Today was October 14th. That was 4 months and 11 days on the road. 133 days. I tried to remember all the places I'd stopped. Nevada. I'd spent 3 weeks there, maybe 4. Arizona for a few days. Utah. I'd been to at least 3 different campgrounds before Fish Lake. It didn't add up to 133 days. I couldn't remember where I'd been for weeks at a time. There were gaps, blank spaces in my memory that I couldn't account for. I sat in the gas station parking lot for 20 minutes, trying to reconstruct my route, trying to remember. I couldn't. When I got back to the campground, the trail was still there. I parked and walked over to it, examining the wooden sign more carefully. The wood was old, gray, and splintered, but the arrow carved into it looked fresh. The edges were sharp, the wood inside still pale. I went back to my RV and tried to call my brother in Oregon. No answer. I left a voicemail asking him to call me back, then realized I'd forgotten to tell him where I was. I sent a text. "I'm at Fish Lake National Forest in Utah. Call me when you can." He didn't call back that night. I made dinner, watched another movie, tried to sleep. The dreams came again, Rebecca on the trail, always ahead of me, never turning around. This time in the dream I called out to her, "Wait for me." She stopped walking. She stood there, not moving, her back to me. I ran to catch up, but the distance between us never changed. I ran, and she stayed exactly the same distance away. I woke up at 2 a.m., my heart hammering. I got dressed and went outside. It was cold, the kind of October cold that promises winter. My breath came out in clouds. The trail was there, the sign pointing into the darkness. I got my flashlight and walked it. I don't know why. I knew it was stupid going into the woods alone at night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to, that something was waiting for me there. The flashlight beam cut through the trees, throwing long shadows. I found the first carving again, 9/14/2019 DM. Then the others in sequence, each one marking another date, another set of initials. I walked past the last carving, the one from 2023, and kept going. The trail continued deeper into the forest. After a while, I noticed something strange. There was no underbrush, no fallen leaves or dead branches, just bare dirt and the trees on either side. It looked maintained, but the ranger had said there was no trail here. I checked my watch, the new one I'd bought in town, digital, supposed to be accurate. It was 2:47 a.m. I walked for another 10 minutes, then my flashlight caught something up ahead. A shape in the darkness standing on the trail. I stopped. It was a person. A man, I thought, though it was hard to tell in the shadows. He was just standing there, not moving. "Hello," I called. He didn't respond. I took a step closer. The flashlight beam reached him, and I saw his face. He looked about my age, maybe older, gaunt with hollow eyes and skin that looked gray in the flashlight beam. He was wearing hiking clothes, cargo pants, a fleece jacket, boots. "Are you okay?" I asked. He stared at me for a long moment, then smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile you give when someone asks a question with an obvious answer. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I'm just walking," I said. "I'm staying at the campground." "You shouldn't be here," he repeated. Same tone, same inflection, like he was reading from a script. "Do you need help?" I asked. He tilted his head, studying me. "How long have you been seeing the trail?" The question caught me off guard. "I noticed it yesterday." "How long have you been seeing it?" he asked again, like I hadn't answered. "2 days," I said. He nodded slowly. "It usually takes longer. You must be close." "Close to what?" He didn't answer. He turned and walked off the trail into the trees and disappeared. I stood there for a minute, shining my flashlight where he'd gone. There was no sign of him, no sound of footsteps or branches breaking. I checked my watch. 3:02 a.m. I'd been on the trail for 15 minutes, but it felt like longer. I turned around and walked back. My RV appeared through the trees almost immediately, like I'd never left. The walk back took maybe 2 minutes. My watch said 3:04. I went inside, locked the door, and sat at the dinette table until sunrise. The next day, I packed up the RV. I was leaving. I didn't care that I'd paid for 3 nights. I wanted out. Something was wrong with this place, and I wasn't going to stick around to find out what. I got in the driver's seat, started the engine, and put it in gear. The trail was directly in front of me. I was parked facing away from it toward the campground exit. I hadn't moved the RV. But somehow the trail was now blocking my path, the wooden sign planted in the middle of the road. I put the RV in park, turned off the engine, and got out. The trail sign was exactly where it had been before, at the edge of the campground. My RV was still in the same spot. I got back in and tried again. Same result. The trail appeared in front of me, blocking the way out. I tried backing up, tried turning around. Every direction I pointed the RV, the trail was there. I gave up and parked again. There was one other RV in the campground now, a small Class B van parked about 100 yards away. I walked over and knocked on the door. A woman answered, maybe in her 60s, with short gray hair and glasses. "Sorry to bother you," I said. "I'm having some trouble with my RV. Do you know if there's a mechanic nearby?" She looked at me like I'd asked her to solve a calculus equation. "Mechanic?" "Yeah, or a tow service. I can't seem to get my RV to move." "Why would you want to move it?" she asked. "I'm leaving. I was supposed to check out today." She frowned. "You're supposed to stay." "What?" "You found the trail," she said. "That means you're supposed to stay." I took a step back. "How do you know about the trail?" "Everyone knows about the trail," she said. She started to close the door, then paused. "How long have you been seeing it?" 3 days, I said. She nodded, like this made sense. "You should walk it. That's what it's for." "What's what for?" She closed the door. I went back to my RV and tried calling my brother again. Still no answer. I tried calling the ranger station. No answer there either. I checked my phone. Full battery, full signal. I sent my brother another text. Something's wrong, I need you to call me. Then I tried to call 911. The call connected, rang twice, and disconnected. I tried again. Same result. I threw my phone across the RV and sat down on the couch. I must have fallen asleep because when I opened my eyes it was dark outside. My watch said 11:38 p.m. I got up and looked out the window. The trail was glowing. Not bright, not like a spotlight, just a faint luminescence like foxfire or phosphorescence. The wooden sign was outlined in pale light, and the path itself seemed to shimmer in the darkness. I watched it for a while, trying to convince myself I was hallucinating. Maybe I was sick. Maybe I'd been sick for months and this was all some kind of fever dream. I checked my phone. My brother had texted back, "Sorry, been busy, everything okay?" I called him immediately. He answered on the third ring. "Hey, what's up?" he said. He sounded normal, unconcerned. "I need you to do something for me," I said. "Sure, what?" "Look up Fish Lake National Forest in Utah. Tell me if there's anything unusual about it." I heard typing in the background. "Okay, looking it up. What am I looking for?" "Anything. Local legends, disappearances, unexplained events." More typing. "I'm seeing. Looks like it's just a regular national forest. Has some old-growth aspens popular for fall colors. There's something about the Pando clone. Apparently there's a massive aspen colony there that's technically one organism. That's kind of cool." "Anything else?" "Not really. Why, what's going on?" I didn't know how to explain it. "There's a trail here. It's not on any maps. And I don't know. Something's wrong with it." Silence on the other end. "David?" I said. "Yeah, I'm here. Listen, are you okay? Like mentally? I know Rebecca's death was hard, and you've been on the road for a while." "I'm fine," I said. "Just forget it." "No, I mean it." "When's the last time you saw a doctor?" "I don't need a doctor." "When was your last checkup?" I tried to remember. Before Rebecca got sick, probably. We'd both gone in for routine physicals in early 2023. "A while," I said. "You should get checked out. Find a clinic or something, just to be safe." "Yeah, okay." We talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. I looked out the window again. The trail was still glowing. I went outside. The temperature had dropped, probably below freezing. I could see my breath. I walked toward the trail and the glow intensified as I got closer. When I reached the wooden sign, I stopped. The arrow was pointing into the forest, into the darkness beyond the pale light. I took out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The glow disappeared immediately like it had never been there. I turned off the flashlight. The glow returned. I stood there for a long time staring at the trail. Then I walked back to my RV and went to bed. The dreams were worse that night. Rebecca on the trail, always ahead of me. But this time when I called to her, she turned around. Her face was wrong. Not disfigured, not monstrous. Just wrong. Like someone had tried to reconstruct her from memory and gotten the proportions slightly off. Her eyes were too far apart. Her smile was too wide. "Come with me," she said. I woke up screaming. It was 3:06 a.m. I got up, got dressed, and went outside. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think, couldn't function. The trail was there, glowing softly in the darkness. This time I walked it. I don't know why. Maybe I was tired of fighting it. Maybe I thought if I just walked the whole trail, whatever it would let me go. The glow lit the path ahead of me, bright enough to see by. I passed the carved dates, the initials. I passed the spot where I'd seen the gaunt man. I kept walking. The trail went on longer than it should have. I walked for what felt like an hour, maybe more. The trees never changed. The path never curved. Then I saw someone ahead of me. It was the woman from the RV, the one with gray hair. She was walking slowly, her back to me. "Hello?" I called. She didn't turn around. I walked faster, trying to catch up. She maintained the same distance ahead, just like Rebecca in my dreams. "Wait," I said. She stopped. I approached her carefully. When I got within a few feet, she turned around. It was her face, but it was wrong. Same problem as Dream Rebecca, proportions slightly off, smile too wide. "You're almost there," she said. "Almost where?" "The end." "What is this place?" I asked. She tilted her head. "Don't you know?" "No. This is the trail for people like us." "Like us?" "The dying," she said. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "I'm not dying." She smiled that too wide smile. "Everyone's dying, but we're close. That's why we can see it." "That's not true," I said. "When's the last time you felt good?" she asked. "Really good, not just okay." I tried to remember. Before Rebecca got sick, maybe, or during. I'd been so focused on taking care of her I hadn't paid attention to myself. "I'm fine," I said. "When's the last time you had an appetite?" I'd been eating less, but that was just stress, grief. "When's the last time you didn't feel tired?" I was always tired lately, but that was normal when you weren't sleeping well. "How much weight have you lost?" I looked down at myself. My clothes were loose. I'd noticed that, but I'd thought it was from not eating regularly, from living on the road. "You know," she said softly. "Deep down, you know." "No," I said. She turned and started walking again. I watched her go, disappearing into the glowing path ahead. I stood there for a long time. Then I turned around and walked back. The walk back took 2 minutes. My RV was right there, waiting. I got inside and turned on all the lights. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. I looked thin, gaunt even. My face was hollow, my eyes sunken. How long had I looked like this? How had I not noticed? I pulled up my shirt and looked at my torso. Ribs visible, hip bones prominent. I got on the bathroom scale. It was an old one, analog, probably not accurate. The needle settled at 147 pounds. I'd weighed 180 when Rebecca died. That was 7 months ago. I sat down on the toilet and put my head in my hands. My phone rang. It was my brother. "Hey," I said. "I've been thinking about our conversation," he said. "I really think you should see a doctor. Like, tomorrow." "Yeah. I'm serious, Henry. Promise me you'll find a clinic." "I promise." "Good. And listen, if you need somewhere to stay, you can always come here. The house is empty since Sarah and I split. Plenty of room." "Thanks." We hung up. I sat there for a while longer, then I got up and started looking for urgent care clinics on my phone. The nearest one was in Richfield, about 40 miles away. They opened at 8 a.m. I set an alarm for 6, then tried to sleep. The dreams came again, but they were different this time. I was alone on the trail, walking in darkness. No Rebecca, no gray-haired woman, just me and the endless path. I woke up at 5:47 a.m. before the alarm. I got dressed, made coffee, and waited for 8 o'clock. At 7:30 I got in the RV and started the engine. The trail wasn't blocking my path anymore. I drove to Richfield without any problems. The urgent care clinic was in a strip mall, between a dollar store and a Chinese restaurant. I parked and went inside. The waiting room was empty except for a woman with a toddler. I checked in with the receptionist, filled out paperwork, and sat down. A nurse called me back after 15 minutes. She took my vitals, blood pressure, temperature, pulse, weighed me. 144 pounds, she said, noting it on her chart. "Is that bad?" I asked. "What did you weigh before?" 180. She frowned. "When was that?" "March." "So you've lost 36 pounds in 7 months?" "I guess so." "Have you been trying to lose weight?" "No." She made another note. "The doctor will be in shortly." The doctor was a man in his 50s, balding, with kind eyes. He looked over my chart, asked me about my symptoms. "I've been tired," I said. "Not sleeping well, not much appetite." "Any pain?" Sometimes my stomach hurts, and I've been having headaches. How often? Most days. He examined me, pressing on my abdomen, listening to my heart and lungs. He asked about my family medical history. My wife died of pancreatic cancer in March, I said. I'm sorry to hear that. Any cancer in your family? My dad had colon cancer, survived it. He nodded. I'd like to run some tests. Blood work, maybe a CT scan. The weight loss and abdominal pain concern me. Okay. Do you have insurance? Yeah. He wrote out orders for the tests. There's a lab next door. They can do the blood work today. For the CT, you'll need to schedule that, but I'd recommend doing it soon. I thanked him and left. The lab was exactly where he'd said, right next door. I went in, had my blood drawn, and left. By the time I got back to the campground, it was almost noon. The trail was still there, the wooden sign pointing into the forest. I parked and went inside the RV. I needed to eat something, but I wasn't hungry. I forced myself to make a sandwich and managed to eat half of it. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Foster? This is Dr. Chen from the urgent care clinic. I have your blood results back. That was fast. We ran the basic panel. I'm seeing some concerning numbers. Your liver enzymes are elevated, and your white blood cell count is high. I'd really like you to get that CT scan as soon as possible. How soon? Today, if you can. I'm going to call in a referral to the hospital in Richfield. Can you go there this afternoon? Yeah, okay. Good. They'll call you to confirm the time. And Mr. Foster, don't drive yourself home after the scan. You should have someone with you. Why? Depending on what we find, you might need to stay overnight for observation. I hung up and sat down. My hands were shaking. The hospital called 20 minutes later. They could fit me in at 3 p.m. I drove back to Richfield, checked in at the hospital, and waited. They took me back at 3:15, had me change into a gown, and explained the procedure. We're going to inject contrast dye, the technician said. You might feel a warm sensation. Some people say it feels like they're wetting themselves, but you're not. It's just the dye. I lay on the table and let them inject the IV. The machine hummed and whirred, sliding me in and out of the tube. When it was done, they told me to wait in the room. A doctor would come talk to me. I waited for 45 minutes. Then a woman in a white coat came in holding a tablet. Mr. Foster, I'm Dr. Patel. I've reviewed your CT results. Okay. I'm seeing multiple masses in your liver and pancreas. Based on the size and location, I'm concerned this could be advanced pancreatic cancer with liver metastases. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the exam table. We'll need to do a biopsy to confirm, but given your symptoms and the imaging, I think we should admit you tonight and start planning next steps. How long? I asked. I'm sorry? How long do I have? She paused. Without knowing the exact type and stage, I can't give you a definitive answer, but advanced pancreatic cancer. The median survival is typically 6 to 12 months with treatment. And without treatment? Less? Possibly much less. I sat there, processing. The same cancer that killed Rebecca. The same fucking cancer. I need to think about it, and I said. Mr. Foster, I really recommend. I need to think about it, I repeated. She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll have the nurse bring you discharge papers. But please call us tomorrow. We need to act quickly. I got dressed, signed the papers, and drove back to Fish Lake. It was dark by the time I got there. The trail was glowing again, brighter than before. I parked and sat in the RV staring at it. Rebecca had fought. She'd done chemo, radiation, everything the doctors suggested. It bought her 3 extra months of pain and sickness before she died anyway. I didn't want that. I got out and walked to the trail. The wooden sign seemed to pulse with light. I could see the path stretching into the forest, glowing softly, inviting. I stepped onto it and started walking. The dates and initials were still there, carved into the trees. I understood now what they meant. Not just dates, death dates. The days people walked this trail for the last time. I walked past them all, deeper into the forest than I'd gone before. The gaunt man was there again, standing in the middle of the path. "You came back," he said. "Yeah, you know now." "Yeah." He nodded. "It's easier this way, no hospitals, no pain, just the walk." "Where does it go?" He smiled, that strange smile. "The end. Just the end." "That's it? That's all there ever is?" I looked past him, down the trail. The glow continued as far as I could see, disappearing into darkness. "What if I don't want to walk it?" I asked. "Then you go back. You do the hospitals, the treatments, the slow death. Maybe you get 6 months, maybe less. And if I walk it, you get peace." I stood there thinking. Rebecca had died in a hospice bed, drugged to unconsciousness, her body eaten away by tumors. I'd watched her waste away, watched her suffer. I didn't want that, but I wasn't ready to die. "I need more time," I said. The gaunt man shrugged. "The trail will still be here. It's always here for people like us." I turned around and walked back. The walk took 2 minutes again. My RV was waiting. I got inside and locked the door. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm still here, still at Fish Lake. The trail is still there, glowing every night. I haven't started treatment. I called Dr. Patel and told her I needed time to think. She said there isn't much time, that I should decide soon. I know she's right. But every night I stand at the edge of the trail, looking at that glowing path, and I think about how easy it would be. Just walk. Just let go. I haven't decided yet. The gray-haired woman's RV is gone. I don't know when she left or if she walked the trail. The gaunt man is still there. I see him sometimes, standing at the trailhead waiting. Yesterday I carved my own date into a tree at the beginning of the trail. I didn't put a date yet, just my initials. HF. I'll add the date when I'm ready. I think I'm almost ready. My brother called again yesterday, asking when I'm coming home. I told him soon. He said he's worried about me. I told him not to be. Last night I had a dream about Rebecca again, but this time she wasn't walking ahead of me. She was standing at the end of the trail, waiting. "Come with me," she said. "Not yet," I said. "Soon?" "Soon." I woke up at 3:06 a.m. like I always do now. I got dressed and went outside. The trail was there, glowing brighter than I'd ever seen it. I walked to the edge and stood there looking at the path. I could see Rebecca at the end, just like in the dream. Or maybe I was imagining it. I don't know anymore. I took one step onto the trail, then another. The dates and initials passed by, markers of the people who'd walked before me. I added my own to the collection as I passed, carved fresh into the bark. 11/05/2024. HF, today's date. I kept walking. The trail stretched ahead, glowing softly, leading somewhere I couldn't see. Rebecca was there at the end. I was sure of it now. I just had to keep walking. Behind me I could hear my RV, the generator humming quietly. I could turn back, go to the hospital, start treatment, fight. But I was tired of fighting. I took another step. The trail accepted me, the glow brightening around my feet, and I walked. Tentar novamente.